My entitled mother-in-law is literally throwing a separate birthday party for my son right before the one I was planning just to try and make mine look bad. She's even gone as far as posting this online, literally confusing the people who were supposed to go to my party for my son. But now, after I told her she can't do that and basically shut down any plan she had, she's now saying I'm denying her grandmother rights, with my husband even saying that I should let her do it just to avoid a fight. And at this point, I'm so annoyed that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my son is turning 5 next month, and I've been planning a small backyard birthday party for him. He's obsessed with dinosaurs, so I'm doing a dinosaur theme one with a piñata, a fossil dig game, and a cute T-Rex cake that I'm making myself. It's not fancy, but it is what he loves, and we're keeping it chill since money is tight. Well, my mother-in-law, who is the Karen of this story, has always been over the top. Last week, she called and said she's throwing a better birthday party for my son at her house, which, by the way, is literally the day before mine. She's booked a bounce house, a magician, and a catered taco truck. She didn't ask me or my husband, but instead just decided it was happening and invited all her friends' kids and not even my son's classmates. Well, I told her we're already having a party, and she can't just plan a separate one without talking to us first. Well, when I said that, she just laughed and said, "Oh honey, kids love big parties, and I'm just giving him the best day ever." Then she posted pictures on Instagram of the bounce house with a caption by saying, "Getting ready for my grandson's epic birthday bash." Now, people are texting me confused about which party to attend. I finally told her she's not throwing a separate party because it's my son's day and not hers. And now she's crying to my husband that I'm denying her grandma rights. My husband thinks I should let her do it to avoid a fight, but I'm honestly so annoyed. So am I the jerk for shutting this down? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Dude, you are definitely not the jerk, and yes, your mother-in-law is overstepping big time. First of all, your husband is spineless for not backing you up. Like, this guy's just trying to avoid conflict with a mom who has clearly overstepped his boundaries forever, and he's now expecting you to do the same thing just to keep the peace. And under different circumstances, sure, I'm a big fan of keeping the peace and choosing my battles. But this is like a blatant disrespect towards you and like anything you're trying to do. She is literally trying to hijack your son's wedding just so she can look better and make you look bad. Like, that's all that's going on right now. And she's forced your hand in a way that's like completely ridiculous. Like, she's pretty much guaranteed the narrative is going to make you look bad no matter what. And it's going to take a lot of work for people to understand the truth, that instead your mother-in-law's insane and she did this on purpose. And what does she really expect? Does she expect you to just hand over your kid and be like, okay, go to your first party? Like, no, that's not gonna happen. She can't just plan a party for your kid without your permission. Like, it's your kid. So no, you're not the jerk here, and your mother-in-law is absolutely overstepping her boundaries. Because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would have the exact same reaction. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk and his girlfriend tried to steal our movie theater seats that were the prime spot in the theater, forcing me to put this idiot in his place and get him to move out of the way, as he seriously tried to guilt trip me all because he had to move out of my seats. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I pre-booked 2 seats in the back middle of a movie theater to have a rare night out with a kid at home. This theater, by the way, only has 40 seats because these are fully lounge recliners with seat service. Anyways, when I pre-booked them online, no one else had yet booked any of their seats that day. So I'm thinking, great, maybe we get the place to ourselves. So we show up, walk up to our row, and a man and a woman in their late 20s maybe are sitting in our 2 middle seats that are the prime location due to the screen size and the angles. I say to them, hey, I think you're in our seats. And the girlfriend starts to unrecline and stand up to move when the boyfriend grabs her arm and looks around the empty theater and says, why? There's plenty of other seats available. To which I immediately reply by saying, exactly, so you won't have any trouble finding somewhere to sit instead of the seats we paid for. The girlfriend is uncomfortable at this point, and the guy says, seriously? And I just told him, look, you're sitting there because they're the best seats, which is why we booked them. He then grumbled and moved, and his girlfriend initially wanted to sit further away in the row, but he decided to be petty and sit right in front of us the row down. But you know what? The joke's on him. I had worked all day, and I removed my shoes once I reclined, and those feet must have stank really bad being 2 feet away from their head for the next 2 hours. Okay, I will never understand someone legitimately stealing someone else's seats and then turning around and being like, why are you trying to make us move? You could sit anywhere. Almost as if them having to move is somehow your problem, even though those are literally your seats. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? Like, to be that entitled must be so exhausting. So I personally really love the way that you handle this because that guy sounded like a miserable jerk. My entitled boss refuses to pay us on time and even decided to lie to me when I was getting this job by saying that if we work harder and faster, we'll get paid more. So I decided to get some petty revenge that truly put him in his place. Here's what I did. So I was working for this window company making plastic windows, but we were like a small workshop with 3 workers and 1 overseer, which belonged to one of the largest companies in the country. The boss always insisted on doing everything by the book for us. You know, as long as it didn't slow down production. If it did, then he just didn't care. But he himself always forgot to send work hours to human resources for us to get paid on time like it said on our contracts. Like sometimes he would be 2 weeks late, which meant at that point you were late on payments. And our boss's boss was always hounding him, and he would just brown nose it and then try to lash out on us because he was yelled at. So overall, he was a very unpleasant person. It was the only job in my small rural town at the time, so I just endured it. After 3 months, I was given work boots, some pants, a jumper, and a coat. But in contract, it was clearly stated that you have to sign for all inventory given and return it if you quit. And he, of course, didn't give me anything to sign, and I didn't care at the time. When joining the job, we talked that we would get bonus on work done on time, and we even went as far as starting work so fast that he had trouble getting blueprints from the office as we finished our supposed workload in half the time the company expected. But of course, there was no pay increase. After the second month of no increase in pay and the big boss visit where they expressed surprise at how well we were working, I went to ask why we had no pay increase. He tried to weasel out saying that it wasn't official, which is apparently my own fault for not having it in contract. But I said that we talked about it and that this was his own offer in words. But you know what? He just smiled and grinned and said, "Prove it." Well, after that, I boiled inside for a week until I found a job in a town over and I just straight up quit. 2 days later, my boss calls me up saying I need to sign papers for quitting for human resources, and I just said, "Sure, come by my home and I'll sign it." He arrives and starts saying, "Okay, give me the equipment too." But I just said to him, "Well, I never signed for the equipment, so officially I never received any." He then got serious and kind of angry with me. He said to me, "Don't be like that. I know you've got it, just bring it out." So I said with the most satisfying look on my face, "Oh yeah? Prove it." The guy who stayed there said the boss got visited by the big boss and was seriously yelled at. And as he heard it, the cost of it was deducted from his pay. After 8 years, I still have those boots, and they still serve me daily very well. In fact, all the other clothing was really good quality too, and they're still being used on occasion, reminding me that just once I got one over on my boss. Okay, if this isn't like the best proof possible that you would ever need to say, yes, you need things in writing, then my God, let this be the example you can lean on. Seriously, this guy signed him onto this job and said, "Oh yeah, if you get stuff done early, then you get a bonus," only for him to turn around and be like, "Oh yeah, I never said that. You can't prove it either." And honestly, this is the kind of evidence I need to be like, okay, you need things in writing no matter what, especially with a corrupt boss who's gonna treat you like this. So good for you for getting your petty revenge, because this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare to have to work for. Am I the jerk for not hiring my cousin at my startup, all because my psycho aunt reached out and demanded that I do so? Because right now she's really pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I have a tech startup and one of my aunts reached out because her son is looking for a job and has asked me to hire him. We are not close at all, but since they are still family, I responded and I asked her to have him message me directly so that we can have a chat and have him scheduled for an interview. Now, I did not say this exactly though, and I just responded with, "Please have him message me the soonest." Well, a week has passed and he has not reached out. My aunt then messages me again and says I should ping her son and tell him I'm offering him a job. And this is where I get a little pissed off, because for one, they are asking me for a favor. Why should I be the one to reach out? And secondly, I never said I'm offering him a job. So I said exactly that. I said I'm not offering him a job, but I'm offering an interview. And when I said that, she just completely lost it. She said her son has been jobless for a year, and in this economy, I should help them out. She then said to me, "Well, this is what family is for." She also then called me names and said that I'm such a jerk because I promised her a job for her son, and he has stopped applying since then. She's been flooding me with horrible messages since then, and at this point, I have no plans on giving my cousin a chance at all. So am I the jerk? Was my response really easy to misunderstand? Or is there something else going on here that I have nothing to do with? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I really cannot stand when family does this because I've run into this too in my own situation, and that is honestly so obnoxious. Like seriously, the dialogue started by her saying, "Oh yeah, my son's looking for a job," but it somehow led to being like, "Oh yeah, he's being offered a job," and then, "Oh my God, why aren't you giving him a job? This is what family's for." And it's like, dude, if this is what family's for, then I don't want to be a part of this family. That really sucks and I just don't want to deal with that. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally did nothing wrong. You were not offering anybody a job. And the fact that she assumed that was somehow coming along with just being related to you, that is really crazy and something that you should definitely not have to deal with. My idiot job is constantly saying they will fire us if we don't find someone someone to replace us for a shift that we're taking off. And despite the fact that this is literally the manager's job, I decided to maliciously comply by sending my deadbeat brother who's unemployed over to my fast food job that I was quitting, by the way, just to cover me for my last day of employment, resulting in my now former boss getting pretty pissed off at me. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things off, I worked at a fast food joint when I was in high school, and this joint was stopped rostering staff after they turned 18 as they would need to be paid more. And for reference, I was 17 and a half at the time. Now, management was really lame. They would expect us to find a replacement for missed shifts, regardless of how much notice we gave. If we were understaffed, we would have to turn non-drive-through orders away, but otherwise it would be business as normal. Now, I had my final end of year 12 exams. I did 6 subjects, and the exam for each subject was held on different dates in November. I provided 3 months of notice, and yet still, I was asked to find a replacement the night before my exam, or I would be let go. Now, if an employee ghosted my boss at this point, they'd be let go, and my boss would typically find someone else to cover the shift, which is something that he should be doing by default. But you know what? This is not a problem. I texted my boss that I found a replacement, and it's then that I sent my deadbeat brother who was unemployed and on welfare for the past 3 years there to cover my shift. Well, my boss went ballistic. He sent me a barrage of text messages, blaming me for costing them money and informing me that I was let go. But I only read those messages after my final exam, and then I blocked him, because that kind of energy is not something I need in my life. Yeah, that sounds like an awful place to work. This guy literally lets people go the second they turn 18, all because he would have to pay them more? Like, what is going on right now? That's horrible business practice. Like, do you not want anybody to be trained properly and have, I don't know, experience at your job? Like, why not have people on hand that know what they're doing instead of having a rotating staff of teenagers who are constantly being fired? That's so stupid. Like, literally, that really is lame. So good for you for getting one over on this guy, because he sounds like a complete moron. My entitled mom says that she's going to take away my college fund, all because I wouldn't stay at her house during my uncle's wedding. So now I've had to go to extreme lengths just to secure my future and make sure that she doesn't ruin it in a way that honestly is so unfair, because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my uncle got married, and way before that, I asked him if I could bring my partner to the wedding, and he and his wife were okay with it, but my mom was against it, saying that this was a family-only event, and then changing the reason each time the topic came out, mainly because she's homophobic and couldn't keep a good reason to exclude my partner without looking homophobic. It was stressing me and making me very annoyed, and so I decided that me and my partner wouldn't stay at her place during the wedding. I live in another city for college, and I informed my uncle, my mom, my dad, and another uncle about my plan, and it was fine until a week before the wedding. My mom suddenly asked me when my partner and I would be arriving at her house, and I reminded her that we wouldn't stay with her and already had arrangements for our stay. Well, when I said that, she was suddenly furious, saying I was destroying our family and that I didn't have any right to make a decision on my life while she was paying for my college. I then got angry and I said that I did this because I needed space from her and that the way she was acting was the main reason why I needed this. Then she said, well, if you want to be so independent from me, then so be it. I am no longer going to pay for your college. Now, after the wedding, when I came back to the city, I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to inform them about my situation. They were very empathetic and they came out with a plan in case my mom was serious about it. I then asked her in a very serious tone if she really meant this, or if it was just something that she said in the heat of the moment. Well, she didn't answer, instead saying that if I really wanted an answer, then I should talk to my dad, and he would have to check that I was mentally stable to continue funding my education. Now, for reference, my parents are divorced, but my dad has always acted like a mediator in important decisions because me and my mom just don't get along. So I just said, well, this wouldn't resolve anything, because this is a cycle. There's a stupid fight, my mom threatens with something, I have to talk to my dad, and then she acts like nothing happened, and then it just goes on and on. But this time was my breaking point. Dealing with her like this always stresses me out, and even affected my grades. So I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to discuss more about the plan. I can't pay rent and college while living in this city, so I will move in with my partner to live in the same city, and then just move to online classes for the rest of my career. Meanwhile, my career coordinator will help me get a scholarship to cover part of my college fees, and I will also find scholarships on large business and government programs to pay for college. I talked to my dad about it, and he seemed concerned about it, and asked me if I was sure about this, but I told him about how tense my relationship with my mom is, and how I can't trust my future in someone that behaves like that, and that relying on someone that threatens to take my future for any petty reason is not someone that I can depend on. He said that he definitely agreed, and then asked me how he could help me out. So I told him that I just need the same help he was giving me since I moved from from college. And for reference, he sends me money to pay rent, and I will just be using the same amount to spend it on rent, groceries, and any other doctor's appointments and medicine I might need. Well, my dad said this is fine and he will still send the same amount. My college fees for the semester were already paid for before the wedding, so I just have to get good grades and just not fail. But you know what? After I move in with my partner, I will go low contact with mom, inform her that she doesn't have to pay any college fees from now on, and that I don't want to be near her until she goes to therapy. I don't have any hopes that she will change, but the main reason I will maintain contact with her is because she pays for my phone bills. And sure, she wouldn't like it, but she will hate not being able to contact me in any way. And honestly, it's one of the few things that she's taught me when I was living with her. You hide anything and seek any weakness on anyone so you can know how to manipulate it at your own favor. And I know this is entitled from me, but it is some way that I can still communicate with my dad, as I don't want him to cover for more than what he is already giving me, which is the reason why I want her to pay my phone bills. And then maybe in a year I can pay for it by myself. My mom is the only one that is not aware of this. I plan to cut her off after I graduated college, but seeing how she threatened me this time, I will just go low contact with her. I had a plan before, but actively threatening my future over not staying with her during my uncle's wedding is so ridiculous. But it's not the first time she has felt entitled over me. She has pulled similar moves in the past, but honestly, it's nothing as serious as this. Oh my god, your mom sounds awful. Like, I completely understand why your dad divorced her. She seriously tried to throw your entire future out the window, all because you didn't want to stay at her house for this stupid wedding. Which, by the way, she knew about this, but instead decided, oh, I'm gonna make this into a big deal. Just you wait, you're gonna regret crossing me. Like, dude, what is going on right now? That is so dumb. But I've gotta say, with all things considered and all the details you've given us, I do kinda like your plan a lot. I think this is a solid plan of action, and no, I don't think you're manipulating anyone here. If your mom was to sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna ruin your college career, and try to like cut you off from having any kind of education, then guess what? You need to make plans and you need to like prepare for her being crazy, because this kind of behavior is not normal. This is not okay. She can't just do that all because you didn't agree to one thing that she wanted that, by the way, you already discussed about. So hopefully all this works out for you, and hopefully you're able to get away from your psycho mom, because her behavior, in my opinion, is very detrimental and you do not deserve that in the slightest. An entitled jerk parks his Porsche across 3 handicap spots, leaving me with nowhere to park, as I most definitely needed that after having a surgery. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only getting him in trouble, but also getting him banned from the Target I was shopping at. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this just happened yesterday. In late April, I hurt my foot and ankle, which required surgery, so I was given a temporary handicap placard. I then went to Target to pick up some groceries in the middle of the afternoon when I knew it would be dead. But here's the part that really blows my mind. A single car was taking up 3 spots parked horizontally across 3 lanes. A very nice Porsche is sitting there with no tags and no placards, and the passenger side window was wide open like an invitation. So I grabbed some dirt and gravel nearby and lightly sprinkled it all over the passenger seat for theatrics. Then I went inside and I told the front desk that I thought I saw a raccoon slip inside the Porsche hogging the handicap spots. And by the way, this is obviously a lie. They then announced over the intercom, asking the owner to come up. I stayed within viewing distance to see what would happen, which is when I saw a dude practically run over, yelling about his car, and calling the employees names for lack of pest control, clearly pissed off and very annoyed. Not long after, a big biker-looking security guard showed up, who then called parking enforcement to handle the parking violation. Long story short, this guy ended up being banned from that Target for his conduct, and honestly, I can't think of a better person for this to happen to. Yeah, you've got to be a pretty big D-bag to park like that, especially across handicap parking spots. So good for the original poster for getting this guy in trouble, because he absolutely deserved it. My boyfriend let his ex move in with him so that their kids could see their mom for the first time in 2 years. And this entire situation has me wondering what's really going on in that house, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 23-year-old female and my boyfriend is 34. He has young kids from a previous relationship, and he let their mother move into his house a couple of weeks ago, saying that she had nowhere else to go and that he wanted her back in the kids' lives. And for reference, she hasn't seen the kids in over 2 years because of her alcoholism. I don't live with him, and I'm also not able to go to his house anymore because she is always there, and it would just cause some huge drama. He snuck out of his house last night to come see me, and we'd only been together for a few minutes before she called him 4 times in a row, screaming at him to come back to the house or she was going to throw his stuff on the lawn. He promptly left me to go back to the house and fight with her, and it was obvious she wants to get back together with him and she's just jealous. He claims that he hates her guts and that he would never cheat or do anything with her. And by the way, she cheated on him, which is why they broke up. However, I am extremely skeptical of any living situation where a man and woman similar in age are together, separate bedrooms or not, especially when it's your ex, for crying out loud. It's unacceptable to me, and I tried to break up with him over it, but he begged me to stay. So please, be honest. Is there any chance that they're not spending quality time together, if you know what I mean? Because right now, I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, this sounds like a mess. Like, seriously. What is going on right now? You're telling me that your boyfriend is letting his ex move back in with him, and now she's actively trying to get in the way of your relationship with him? Like, I'm sorry, this sounds crazy and there is no good excuse for this. This literally screams, oh yeah, she's trying to sabotage your relationship. And the fact that he would even allow this to happen, like, good lord. Set up visitations or something, don't let her move in with you. Like, what's going on right now? This seems really stupid. So I know if I was in your shoes, I don't think I would ever want to deal with this because this sounds like way too much drama for me. I would honestly be so turned off by this, I would not want anything to do with this relationship. So hopefully you can figure out some kind of silver lining here because based on what you told us, I don't see anything anytime soon. My entitled mom demands that I no longer see my boyfriend until he loses a significant amount of weight. She even says that he needs to report in how much he's losing in order for us to even be allowed to see each other. But now I'm honestly so frustrated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend for close to 5 years now. And since the first time my mom met him, she simply just didn't like him. The reason was because he's on the plump side, meaning that he's overweight, and he's just a really chill guy. The first time they met, she asked him about his hobbies, and he replied casually about how he likes to eat, which is something he really does, and he likes to cook too. I was still in school then, but all expenses were paid on my own. Since then, she would barge into my room at random hours, scolding, shouting, and forcing me to break up. But I refused to budge, and had always tried to reason out with her. That is, until she came up with an ultimatum. She said he needs to lose about 15 kilograms in a year, or we would have to break up. And during this time, we can't see each other. My boyfriend and I tried to even negotiate the terms, but no means no. She said we would have to abide by the rules as this proves his sincerity to me, and then once he reaches the goal, she will finally shut up. During this period, I had frequent quarrels started by her, really affecting my mental health. I told her I was not doing well mentally, and she said that I was faking it. And while I didn't really agree, I had no choice. We still met just secretly, but my boyfriend was still working to lose the weight. We would also have to report the weight loss progress to her, and she would sometimes say that his progress is so slow, and that if she were him, she would lose it off as quickly as possible. Fast forward to today, and he lost the weight, but she still criticizes me, calls me horrible names, talks about me behind my back, and about my relationship. I'm going to family counseling, but it isn't helping that much because mom thinks that she is in the right, and that she feels I was going down the wrong path, and she couldn't just sit by and watch me suffer. After expressing my dissatisfaction with this, she said she's only saying the truth, so why am I so upset? And with that, I'm kind of low contact with her, but my dad has been saying that this isn't how a daughter should be with her mother, trying somehow to get us to reconcile. But I've lost respect for her and a desire to reconnect. Any attempt at conversation may result in her screaming and wailing until the wee hours of the night, crying and saying that I've bullied and mistreated her, and all this other garbage. So right now, I'm not talking to her, but please, if there's something that I did wrong, or if there's some way I can improve this, I would love to hear what that is, because honestly, right now, I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your mom's crazy. Seriously, who in their right mind would be like, okay, 25-year-old daughter, you can't see your boyfriend who's also like, what, 29? All because he's overweight. And the fact that she set up this stipulation of him losing like, what, 15 kilograms a year, just so you two can be together, like that is crazy in my opinion. And I'm really shocked that you even agreed to that in the first place, because this is not a normal request. It is incredibly intrusive and just cruel. Because you know what? So what if he's a little overweight and he likes to eat? He clearly likes to cook. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So for your mom to say the things that she did, that is so uncalled for, and I really hope you're able to move out sooner than later, because I could not imagine living with someone as unhinged as the person you're describing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My family absolutely despises my boyfriend, despite the fact that he checks every box I could possibly ask for in having a good relationship. And now I feel like I'm going crazy as they are constantly hounding me about this, leaving me in a really tough spot because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to give a bit of backstory, my boyfriend and I have been together for a little over 6 years. We are both in our mid-20s and we have a cute little apartment, a dog, and both have stable jobs. It has not always been that way, as we have both navigated a lot of changes within ourselves, as well as job loss, sickness, etc. So basically, your 20s can be really hard. Due to all of this, we just decided to take some time before getting married and and settling down. Both of us are content with the decision, as we feel that we are super happy with the dynamic right now and just aren't ready for kids or the whole song and dance. Anyways, my parents have always liked him. Well, that is, up until about a year ago, during a family beach trip, when they suddenly decided he was too quiet and that his jokes are offensive, and that according to them, he will never commit to me, all amongst a ton of other things they've said. I mean, they were horrible to him. They ignored him, my dad was super rude and standoffish, and I ended up having to pry everything out of them rather than them just being upfront. I noticed that all of the problems sort of manifested once my sister started bringing her more loud, outgoing man into the picture. Things with my family have been super tense ever since then, and I backed up a ton as I felt their behavior was awful. My dad is simply awful to him, and it's always my boyfriend's fault. My sister hopped on board, and they all had this big intervention with me, trying to tell me that I deserve better. They dove very heavily into my boyfriend's family, they analyzed his parents and their relationship, etc. My sister also likes to send me TikToks and things like, "Oh, you deserve better," as somewhat of a dig. My mom is somewhat of a narcissist, as she never apologizes or anything, and she's always the victim. So it's like no matter what I say, I wronged her by taking a step back and cutting a lot of contact for my own mental well-being. But here's the kicker, I'm extremely happy. My boyfriend and I have a great relationship. We have never had any reason to believe that one of us was treating the other poorly in any way, and he is incredible with me. He listens, he provides advice and support, cheers me on in my goals, among so much more. And I have no fear that we will have a long future together. But my family cannot seem to grasp any of it and refuse to believe me. I just don't understand. We have the type of relationship where we jokingly pick on each other, and it has always been that way. But they truly believe that it's awful in nature. I also don't understand why it's their business to be involved in any timeline on marriage or kids. My friends love him and his family is amazing. I just have this constant shadow because my family is so against the relationship. They claim that they're not up my butt, but they analyze everything that he does. And I'm honestly not so sure where to go. Has anyone ever dealt with this before? What was your ticket to get them off your back? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this is so toxic because my God, these people are all over you about this relationship as if they've got any skin in the game. And it sounds like they don't like him because this guy is just quieter than the obnoxious boyfriend that your sister has. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? People are allowed to be quiet and introverted. That doesn't mean they're a bad person, like come on. So truly, I don't blame you for cutting contact with them, and hopefully this gets better over time, because clearly you know that you have a good relationship with your boyfriend. And the fact that your family doesn't see that is honestly on them, and that is nothing that has to do with either of you. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I don't want his mom coming with us on our vacation? Because despite the fact that I told him well in advance that I don't want this, he decided to ignore me and invite her anyways. And at this point, I'm worried that our vacation is practically ruined. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, last year my mother-in-law was having financial struggles and was going to be let go from her job. Her two daughters didn't offer to help out, but my husband, being the kind man that he is, and with my okay, told her that she could always move out to the West Coast where we live. So she agreed, and she brought her 4 dogs and a bunch of her stuff and crammed it into our tiny 2-bedroom house. So in this house, there were 3 adults, 6 dogs, and a 6-year-old, and we're expecting a baby in the fall. As of a few months ago, my sister-in-law wants to move out here, and we explained that they should find their own place. We've looked at selling, but the markets are in no place for that. But if it was just my husband and our kid, we would make it work, and when the baby's old enough, they can share a room until we can sell this house. We were planning to go on one last vacation before the baby comes, and I made it clear that I wanted it to just be the 3 of us. My husband said it would be rude to not invite her, and so he invited her anyways. I was hoping because of her dog she wouldn't go, but now she's making us talk to our neighbors, who we are friendly with, about watching her dogs, with her saying that she will also pay to make that happen. Well, I was mad, and pregnancy hormones make it hard to hide my frustration. My husband told me I'm acting like a brat because if it was my mom, I would do the same thing, but I told him I wouldn't because my mom would understand, whereas his mom just simply wouldn't understand. She believes that he can do no wrong, and she believes that she's entitled. I mean, this is the same person who got angry when we went on a trip that we planned before she moved here and didn't invite her. We can't even have discussions with her because she instantly gets defensive. I really just wanted a trip away from her with my little family before this baby comes, and I'm apparently the bad guy and being selfish. He told me that I could be the bad guy and tell her that I don't want her to go, but I already told him this before he invited her, and it's not my mom. I'm not the one with boundary issues. So am I the jerk for telling him to tell her that we don't want her to come? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all because this really was laid out well before he even began to talk to her. Like he knew what you wanted and he still ignored it and said, you can come along wrong, Mom. Don't worry about it. So for him to be like, you can be the bad guy. I'm not gonna do it. It's like, dude, you already knew about this in the first place. Is this guy seriously trying to kick the can down the road and be like, oh, this isn't my problem? Because guess what? It is your problem. You're the one that did this and you're about to ruin this vacation for everybody. So no, you're not the jerk because in my opinion, this problem absolutely falls on your husband's shoulders. My toxic, entitled older coworker is constantly making comments about the women around them by saying that they look tired and that they need more sleep. But after listening to these insults for so long, I finally snapped and decided to put him in his place as I shut this guy down in a way that he truly never expected. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've worked with this older man for about 2 years now, and I've told him so many times that it is rude to make a comment on someone's appearance that they can't change within 5 seconds. We work in retail and he is a cashier, and I'm a shift manager. He only ever makes that comment towards women, and I have never in the past 2 years heard him make any comment towards a man's appearance. He thinks that he is just making small talk, but it comes off incredibly rude, and I point it out to him every time I hear it, and it still hasn't stopped. And it's not just that he's saying something like, oh, you look really tired. He's saying, whoa, you look really tired. Looks like it's time for someone to go to bed. You look like you could really use some sleep. You can see you have dark circles under your eyes. And like he just keeps going and going. Whenever I hear it happening, I will address it immediately after the customer leaves, but he just always says that he didn't mean anything by it. I've brought it up to my boss before, but he just excuses it as this guy being old, and then he doesn't do anything about it. Well, yesterday when I got to work, this old guy says to me, looks like someone didn't get enough sleep last night. You feeling tired today? You look really tired. I then spoke to him as if he was a child. I said to him, what have I told you about making comments about people's appearances that they can't change within 5 seconds? You are rude. That is a rude thing to ask me or anyone else. Stop asking me or other women if they're tired. Even if I am, it's none of your business. Do you understand? For context, when he made this comment to me, we were at the front end of the store, and when I responded to him, I did get a bit loud because it's been 2 years of me repeating the same thing, and I'm honestly so over it. So later that night, he asked me, why did you scold me in front of the entire store? And I honestly just couldn't take it, and I'm seriously hoping he retires soon because this guy is too much to deal with. Oh man, that's super weird. It sucks that the boss isn't doing anything about it because he's clearly targeting women, and that is really creepy. So yeah, I don't blame you for shutting this guy down because if I was in your shoes, I honestly would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not paying for a new appliance in a shared household, despite the fact that that appliance came with me when I first moved in? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 25-year-old female, and I live with 2 other roommates, a 22-year-old male and a 26-year-old female, and we have lived together for over a year with no issues. Little things came up here and there, the usual vibe of needing something cleaned up, but honestly nothing dramatic. Now, I purchased a countertop air fryer before moving in with them in another apartment on my own, and it obviously came with me to the new place. I never said no to anyone using it because I felt guilty with the counter space it took up, and it was already in my possession as long as they kept it clean. Well, fast forward a year, and one of my roommates has broken it by putting her dinner in on the highest temperature, all while she went and took a shower, thus overheating it. At first I was kind of like, well, things break, so whatever, but now they're saying that I need to help pay for a replacement by putting in 1/3 of the cost. Now truly, I'm usually the type to swallow this and just pay, but I'm also a bit annoyed here because my appliance has been broken. I'm out like $100 and on the hook for 30 more to replace it. And by the way, this is my appliance. So am I the jerk for having an issue, or am I right to ask them to replace it 50-50, where I would have to have no share in the cost for the new one? Especially when realistically, I would argue that those that break things should at least apologize and then offer to replace it. What should I do? Okay, I've got to be honest. The second you or anybody else breaks something or has something of yours broken, the person that broke it has to replace it. Period. End of story. That is the way that it is. Because right now, it seems like they're trying to frame this as if this is the apartment air fryer, but that is literally not the case. It's your air fryer. You're the one that brought it with you when you moved in. So why on earth should you have to pay for something that you didn't break that was belonging to you? Because honestly, whoever broke it is the person that should be on the hook, and they shouldn't be buying it so that they can have some kind of claim over it. They should be buying it to replace the one they broke that you owned. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to pay for it because obviously this was your property to begin with. And the fact that they're trying to make you pay for it, in my opinion, is super toxic. Am I the jerk for calling my sister irresponsible and refusing to help her after she demands that I pay groceries for her and her 10 kids for the next several months? Because after I said that she was irresponsible for having that many kids, my parents and my sister are now pissed off at me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have an elder sister who's 38 years old, along with 3 other siblings. We were raised in an ultra-Christian household where we had to go to church, girls had to dress extremely modestly, and we were homeschooled old and all that. I left the religion when I was 20, and I became more of an atheist, and 2 of my other siblings left as well, but my oldest sister, the one that's 38, and my younger one who's 29, stayed in the religion. My older sister is really hardcore into it, and basically she's even more religious than my parents. She thinks that women shouldn't wear pants and that the moon landing was faked and all that. She married a husband with similar beliefs, and now they have 10 freaking kids together, and I mean 10 of them. And I personally think that having that many kids is unethical, considering our overpopulation and the climate crisis. I think 3 should be the max, but I never really commented much because I knew that she would never listen to me. But my main issue was that she didn't have money to give those kids a comfortable life, and neither she nor her husband are rich at all. Because of that, their kids do not have a good quality of life. They rarely ever get to go on any trips or spend individual time with their parents. They last went on a trip 3 years ago, and that was simply to a water park. The kids have barely any privacy, and the older kids have to help with the younger ones a lot. The kids also literally have to share their clothing with siblings who can wear them, so they don't really even have their own clothes. And trust me, there are multiple other issues there, but I don't want to get into it that much. My sister was recently venting about all of this, and about how her older kids don't like her Christian rules, or having to share clothing or take care of their younger siblings. She then asked me if I can buy her groceries for a few months, as they've been having money issues lately. Well, I told her that I would not give her any money, and that it was her fault that she was in this position. She spent so much time being pregnant, so she really couldn't work that much, meaning that she was stuck with a low-paying service job. Her husband makes a lot more, but it still isn't enough to raise 10 kids without relying on welfare. I told her all of this, and she got really upset and said I was judging her personal choices. But honestly, I do judge her. I've spent time with her kids, and they're often neglected, and they often complain about how they don't have anything compared to their friends, and how their rules are so strict. I told my sister that she was an irresponsible person for having so many kids, despite not making near enough money to raise them properly. My parents are now mad at me for judging her for not being a degenerate, career-oriented person. And at this point, I'm honestly wondering if I might be the jerk, because right now I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It seems like this is some tough love that your sister clearly needs to hear. For starters, being career-oriented doesn't mean you're a degenerate. It is horrible that they're trying to generalize in that way, but it honestly kind of gives a peek into what you dealt with growing up. And to that end, I can only imagine what your sister's like. But if I'm being completely honest, I think you're right. She had way too many kids. They can't even afford to have 5 kids, let alone 10. And now she's trying to be like, oh wow, why don't my older kids want to also be parents? Why are they upset that they have nothing? This is so unfair. Can you pay for my groceries? Like, dude, hold on a second. This is not my problem. Why on earth is the original poster responsible for your choices? This is honestly so backwards, and I just don't blame you for being annoyed. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and your sister is 100% at fault. Am I the jerk for asking my stepmother to give me back my birth certificate, as well as all the other paperwork that I might need as an adult? Because right now she is very pissed off at me, saying that I'm being a stingy human being and that I'm ruining everything by taking my papers away from her. And at this point, I'm very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so after a couple of weeks of staying with some of my family, namely my stepmom and my siblings, I asked my stepmom to give me my birth certificate. I wanted to keep my documents with me back home in case of an emergency. As she opened the folder where she keeps my papers, I noticed there was about 4 copies of it, my high school diploma, some vaccine records, and other personal papers. She was handling the folder and going through them, and if I asked for one, she would think a little and then hand it to me, or ask me, oh, you need this, and then hand it to me. So I managed to get some courage, and I asked her calmly to give me everything, all of my papers. Now she wanted to keep 1 copy, but I said I want to take all of them. I also noticed by then that she was keeping 2 copies of my naturalization papers, namely my citizenship papers, over to the side and out of the folder. It felt like she wanted to keep those too, but you know what? I took them as well. She then got really emotional, and in our language, she basically said that I'm being stingy and that I'm skimping on her. I stayed calm and I explained I just want to keep my papers and that me and my husband agreed to bring back our documents and put them together. She then raised her voice. She sounded very upset and like she was about to cry. My hands were shaking at this point because she low-key scares me a lot, but I stayed calm and I said I hear her, but I'm still taking them. Well, she's now more upset, and so my sister and her kid intervened. My stepmom said that I must think that she wants to do something bad with it, but I said no. My sister explained that it's mine and asked why she needs my birth certificate, and she said that she could need it for lots of things. For starters, she says she needs it in case she divorces my dad for whatever paperwork there might be. Also, if my dad passes away and the house they live in needs to be split between the kids, then she supposedly is going to need that paperwork for that as well. Part of me kept pushing, though firmly and calmly, because I don't want anyone to have my documents, and because I felt that I I should push myself to stand up to her for what I think is mine. In the end, she said something like, "Fine, take it all. I don't want anything. But if you need something for paperwork, we won't have it." Anyway, she's very upset and I'm very scared. And she's my ride to the airport tomorrow. So seriously, did I make a mistake or am I the jerk for getting my paperwork away from her? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, no, this is an easy one because your stepmom sounds insane. For starters, no, this is your paperwork. And from the sounds of it, you don't sound like a child. It sounds like you're an adult and you have every right to have access to your paperwork. So the fact that she's trying to hold on to it, in my opinion, is kind of a stupid point. You deserve to have everything on your person, especially your citizenship paperwork. Like seriously, why does she have that? If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely make sure I have that. Both digital and physical copies. That is the last thing you want to lose, like seriously, especially considering today's political climate. And also, it kind of comes off as really suspicious the way she's like, "I need this in case your dad dies or I get a divorce." And it's like, well, wait a second, nobody was thinking about that until you said something. Like, I don't know about you, but it's almost like she was showing her hand, as if she was banking on one of those things happening. And it's like, okay, that's a weird thing to say, but sure, go for it. So to that end, I think there might be a chance where she divorces your dad, or there might be a chance where like something happens to your dad and you gotta split the house between everybody. But on a serious note, I'm glad that you stood up for yourself, especially towards your stepmother, who clearly is an intimidating person. I can understand feeling hesitant and feeling like, oh man, I can't possibly do this. But instead of backing down, you stuck with it and you got it done. Because in my opinion, all of those papers should have gone to you the second you became an adult. And the fact that she tried to keep them away from you, in my opinion, is not only incredibly sketchy, but also very uncalled for. An entitled Karen steals my airplane window seat, demanding that she take it instead of me, as she feels that she deserves it more since she has a kid with her. But when I tell her no, I don't want to give up my seat, she calls me a monster and says that I have no soul for not giving up my seat. And now as a result, I feel really guilty, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was flying home last week after visiting my sister. I booked my ticket a month in advance, and I paid some extra for a window seat because I get anxious on planes, and being able to look outside really helps me stay calm. Well, when I got to my row, there was a woman sitting in my seat. Her young daughter, maybe 6 or 7 years old, was in the middle seat next to her. I politely said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I think that's my seat." She then didn't even look up at me and just said to me, "Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't mind switching. My seat is a few rows back in the middle, but I really want to sit with my daughter." I said to her, "I'm sorry, I understand that, but I booked this seat on purpose. I have anxiety and I really need the window." She now got angry at me for some reason and said, "Seriously, it's a kid. You can't sit in the middle seat for a couple of hours so a mother can stay with her child?" But I said, "Look, I get it, but I paid extra for this seat, and I have a real reason to need it. You can ask someone else to switch." She then stood up and snapped at me. "Unbelievable. Selfish people like you ruin everything. I hope you feel good about making a little girl cry." And the thing is, her daughter wasn't even crying. She was just quietly coloring. I said to her, "Hey, I'm not responsible for your poor planning. If it was that important, you should have arranged seats together before the flight." A flight attendant then came over and asked what was going on, and the woman tried to make me sound like a monster, but I calmly explained that I had this seat booked and I wasn't giving it up. The attendant checked my ticket and asked the woman to move, and while she did, she was loudly muttering things like, "Oh, some people have no soul." I felt awkward the whole flight, but I also knew that I wasn't in the wrong. So am I the jerk for not giving up my seat all because this woman demanded it? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. This lady just wanted the better seats and she refused to go to her crappy seats. And she literally tried to use her kid as some kind of like guilt-tripping tactic just so she would get her way, especially when she was like, "Oh, good job on making a little girl cry." Meanwhile, her daughter doesn't even know what's going on. She's coloring on some paper or something like that. Like seriously, I can't stand people like this. This Karen was completely out of line for doing that. We live in a day and age where literally you know exactly where you're supposed to sit on an airplane. So for her to be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that you would do this to my kid." It's like, seriously lady, I can't believe that you're doing this to me. Look at the way you're acting for a second. You're coming into my section and trying to take my seat and trying to act like I'm the one with the problem. Like, dude, what are you talking about? So yeah, this whole scenario is incredibly stupid, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My Karen manager gets on my case about clocking in 1 minute early, as she screamed at me that it's company policy that I have to be here on my scheduled time. So I decided to maliciously comply by literally making her life and everybody else's life a living nightmare by refusing to clock in until exactly on the second I was supposed to be there, resulting in me getting Employee of the Month, as well as this Karen's stupid policies changing forever. ever. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work at this retail job where everything was so micromanaged it was obnoxious. Like we had a clipboard for literally everything. One day, I get pulled aside by my manager, let's call her Karen with a clipboard for the sake of the story, and she pulled me aside because I clocked in 1 minute early. Not 10 minutes and not even 5. 1 single minute. She then says to me, company policy says that you can't clock in until your scheduled time, not a second before. And I just say to myself, okay, so what do I do with this information? I make it my life's mission to follow that rule to absolute perfection. From that day on, I would stand in front of the clock-in tablet like a soldier guarding the gates of time. I had my phone in hand, the stopwatch running, eyes locked on the second hand, and I wouldn't press that button until the exact millisecond my shift started. Not a moment early and not a moment too late. I was time itself. And if there was a line of coworkers behind me trying to clock in, well, too bad, they can wait. Company policy, baby. Karen with a clipboard starts getting annoyed. She says to me, can't you just be ready to work when you arrive? I said to her, no, Karen, I'm not scheduled to exist as an employee until 9 o'clock in the morning. Until then, I'm just a guy in khakis loitering. Fast forward 2 weeks and corporate visits the store. And guess who has the most perfect attendance and punctuality report they've ever seen? And also guess who gets employee of the month? That's right, me on both occasions. And while we're at it, guess who suddenly changes the policy so you're allowed to clock in up to 5 minutes early? That's right, my Karen boss. So truly, it felt good to get back at her in such a petty way because this lady absolutely deserved it. Oh man, this Karen seriously was completely out of line in my opinion, because if someone clocks in a minute early, it really is not that big of a deal. Because the original poster has it right. It's not like they were 10 minutes early or like, I don't know, 30 minutes early. It was 1 singular minute. And chances are that 1 minute is not going to affect their retail hourly wage at all. So I personally love this malicious compliance because honestly, this lady was being super stupid. And because of your annoying behavior of clocking in exactly on time, she was confronted by how stupid she truly was. And that, in my opinion, was well worth the effort. Am I the jerk for confronting a mom whose kids were stealing all the eggs that we had hidden for my friends? Because right now, I do feel slightly bad and I'm not sure if I crossed the line. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this is so stupid and I'm still mad about it to this day. Yesterday, my girlfriend and I threw a little combination Easter and 420 get-together for some friends in a large public park that included as one element an Easter egg hunt. This is a big local park where people often do small private egg hunts for their families and friends. So the idea isn't totally out there. We brought around 100 plastic eggs, stuffed each one with 2 to 3 pieces of candy, and hid them within a smallish area of the park about 20 minutes before everyone else was due to arrive. We figured because the weather was nice, we would probably lose a few eggs due to kids walking by and stumbling on easy to find ones, but we bought enough that we could absorb some marginal losses. Some were pretty visible, and others were psychotically well hidden, but most were pretty much in the middle. You would have to really be looking to spot them walking by. While we were waiting for all of our friends to arrive, we noticed 3 kids running around the area where we had hidden the eggs, and they all had their arms full of eggs, like 15 to 20 apiece. Their mom was sort of trailing behind, not really paying attention, clearly on her phone. It got to a point where we finally got her attention, and she literally said, "Is it okay if they take these?" My girlfriend and I were dumbfounded, because again, we figured we'd lose a few eggs to kids who grabbed 1 or 2, but this was egregious. They had easily 50 between them. There were 15 people coming, and yes, they were all adults, but adults also like to have silly fun too. So we basically told her, no, please put them back. Her response was some version of, "They're just kids, it's a kid's holiday." I then asked her if she usually let her kids take candy from strangers off the ground in public parks, and she said something along the lines of, "Weird parenting choice, but okay." And she got huffy and told the kids they were leaving and to put them back. The kids threw some of the eggs on the ground, but still left with probably 40 eggs in total. And again, that's nearly 120 pieces of candy that we bought. All for our friends, by the way, and ourselves. Not for random children who didn't even bother to ask before taking it. And for the record, if they had asked us, we probably would have said sure, but within reason, of course. Maybe 2 to 3 apiece, not literally half of them. Also, as they were leaving, my girlfriend called after them. Good luck finding the ones with an illegal substance in them, which was funny, but I don't think they heard it. Anyways, now I feel like a jerk for calling her a bad parent in front of her kids, and for ruining their fun. But I also have a real tendency to feel insanely guilty anytime I stand up for myself. So you know what? I need a temperature check. This was objectively insane behavior, right? Or am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you're completely in the right. You've got nothing to worry about here. That mom's an idiot because clearly this was set up by somebody else. And here she is strolling through the park, not watching her kids, trying to be like, it's fine, just take them, who cares? Like, this clearly was set up for somebody else, and you have the audacity to step up and be like, oh, we're gonna take the candy. That is seriously so dumb, and I can't believe that she even got off with 40 of them. So no, you're not the jerk for calling calling her out. The way she was acting was super entitled, and you guys did not deserve that. A non-patriotic Karen gets arrested across the street from my house after she knocks down nearly a mile's worth of small American flags that were placed there by the city to celebrate the 4th of July. And I'm honestly still blown away by this idiot Karen's actions. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a couple of years ago back in 2023, right before the 4th of July. My family and I were doing some work in our backyard, and at one point we got hungry and we decided to buy some Burger King with some coupons that we had. So my dad and I left his house in his car to go get some food. I was simply looking out the window, looking at the cute little American flags that were pinned down along the sidewalk to celebrate the 4th of July. Now, for a bit of info about these flags, I don't know how many places in the United States do this, but the city I live in does this annual thing where they pin small US flags along the sidewalk down one street, from one end all the way down to the other, to celebrate the 4th of July. I've lived next to this street all my life, and as far as I've known, or as far as I can remember, my street is the only one that has done such a thing. Again, I don't know how many cities in the United States do this, but this is just one that I'm most familiar with. The point is, though, these flags belong to the city and not to the individual homeowners, so I'm sure one would be arrested or fined if they were caught stealing or damaging them. Anyways, as we were coming back, driving down our street towards our house, I noticed some of these USA flags knocked down along the sidewalk. It wasn't just one or two flags too, by the way. It was a ton of them. There were so many flags knocked down along the sidewalk that it literally stretched for nearly a mile. We then started wondering what might have caused them to fall down. Either the city did a poor job pinning them down, or some strong gust of wind came up and blew several of them down. Well, we got our answer when we arrived. There was a police car on the street across from our house. My mom was still in the yard, and she had seen exactly what happened. We asked her about it, and she told us that some woman on a motorized wheelchair was running over these small US flags, and now the police have come to arrest her. Well, that's the most information we got out of the situation. We didn't go to the police across the street to ask for any other details, as it was pretty much none of our business. But I couldn't help but wonder why that woman had done such a thing. Was she playing a game of knocking down the flags, thinking it was no big deal if they got destroyed? Was she possibly intoxicated while driving her motorized wheelchair, which I think counts as drunk driving? Or did she simply hate America and decided to knock down the flags under protest? Either way, in my head, I just nicknamed her the non-patriotic Karen for knocking down lots of little American flags with her motorized vehicle. I didn't hear any screams or shrieks from the woman, so I reckon that she probably didn't put much of a fight up or argument over her actions. But regardless, I'm sure she was a Karen. After all, she knocked down nearly a mile's worth of little flags down one sidewalk in a wheelchair. I mean, this had to have been intentional. This could not have been an accident. I might never know why, but it's quite an amusing story, considering my dad and I only saw the aftermath of what went down while we were literally just trying to get our meals from Burger King. Okay, I love this for so many reasons because seriously, who in their right mind would do that? She literally went down the entire sidewalk for nearly a mile and knocked down all those flags. Either she wasn't aware of what she was doing, or just like the original poster said, this was very targeted and very calculated. And if that is the case, then that really sucks. Like, to do that right before the 4th of July, you know, one of the most important days in the United States, especially towards like patriotism for your country, like that was clearly a very stupid decision and one that she is obviously going to have to pay for. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for calling out my mom for making her girlfriend silent during all family gatherings? Because after watching her cut off her girlfriend constantly, while also never letting her say anything of her own, I decided to finally speak up and call her out on it, resulting in my mom getting extremely upset. Here's what happened. Okay, so whenever we have dinners or events, my mom does most of the talking, and if her girlfriend, who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story, ever tries to say something, my mom will either cut her off or just make it clear that she doesn't need to contribute much. It's like my mom makes Sarah feel small. This has happened at least 5 times that I've noticed. Sarah's an incredibly nice person. She's funny, kind, and I can tell she wants to be part of the conversation, but my mom keeps redirecting things back to her or silencing Sarah without even realizing it. And it gets worse when the rest of the family starts talking. My mom will either hijack the conversation, even if it was something that Sarah had been talking about. If Sarah is sharing a story or her thoughts, my mom will suddenly change the topic or talk over her. The worst part is, Sarah usually just goes quiet. She's very polite and doesn't make a scene, so the whole family just kind of goes along with it. I finally brought it up to my mom last night after another family dinner. I told her that I felt like she was being unfair to Sarah by not letting her voice be heard, and that it was making Sarah uncomfortable. My mom then got defensive and said that I was being over dramatic, and that Sarah is just shy and doesn't need to talk all the time. She even said I was being rude to her girlfriend by pointing it out. So now I feel guilty because I don't want to make my mom feel like she's a bad person, but at the same time, I hate seeing Sarah get ignored or sidelined every single time. I don't think I overreacted, but maybe I did. So am I the jerk for calling my mom out about this? Because right now, I'm not sure if I crossed the line. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I seriously hate the people who act like your mom, and I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm just saying that as a personality trait, it really is annoying, because they're the kind of person who's always waiting to say something or just interrupting you altogether. They're never listening, they're always waiting to share their story while ignoring yours, and that in my opinion is super obnoxious. Like seriously, that's unfair and it is so rude to Sarah. And I know if I was in your shoes and I saw my parent doing that to their girlfriend, I would wait for them to finish and go back to the Sarah of this story and be like, I'm sorry, you were saying, and then have them continue their story. Because this behavior is uncalled for, it needs to be called out. And the fact that your mom's trying to deflect this and be like, oh, you're the rude one for calling it out. It's like, seriously, that's not even true. That literally doesn't make sense, because obviously your mom is the problem and not you. Am I the jerk for not taking out my roommate's trash, even though she is constantly messing with me on a daily basis? Because right now, I feel like I'm at my breaking point. Here's what happened. Okay, so I subleased a room from this woman, but recently I found out that the landlord doesn't even know I live here. On move-in day, she told me she needed access to the attic and half the closet in my room, and promised she would ask me when she does so, but she never does. She just comes in unannounced and rearranges my stuff. She has a camera pointed at the attic door and another room full of her belongings. There's even a camera in her bedroom, which would be fine if she respected my space, but she doesn't. I pay half the rent plus $100 in utilities. She's home all day on disability, while I work up to 60 hours a week. Lately, she's been randomly kicking me off the Wi-Fi, lying about it, and then giving me a new password days later. One time, she texted me asking me to move my car so she could park in the driveway, as she had apparently bought a new car, but my data was down and I never saw the message. So she blocked my car in, and then suddenly gave me the Wi-Fi password again. But even still, 2 days later, she changed it. Then, while I was still kicked off the Wi-Fi, she asked me to pick up a toothbrush for her on a day that I was working a 12-hour shift. Well, I did it, and guess what? She never even paid me back. She has also been expecting me to take out her trash, like pizza boxes and beer cans, when I barely generate any myself, and I can't even drink alcohol. One time, I left a full bag next to the trash can because it was overflowing and lidless, and she told me animals got into it, but cleaned it up before even telling me. And to an extent, I can get how this would be unfair to her. Before she got her car, she asked to borrow mine late one night. I said no, and then she got upset, claiming it was to go to the hospital, even though I overheard her say that she was heading to her ex's house. Ever since then, she removed me from all social media and hasn't even put me back on the Wi-Fi. And now she's hinting that I've harmed her cat. The cat got sick after eating Benadryl that I left out, and when she saw me gently pick him up on one of her cameras, she told me not to because of an injury. Well, I apologized, said he seemed fine, and she took that as me saying that I'm gonna keep doing it. She clearly thinks I'm a danger to him, even though I've done nothing wrong. At this point, I'm beyond fed up. I work constantly and I still get treated like I'm a guest in her house, even though I pay half the rent. In her defense, I left a carton of molded strawberries and blueberries in the fridge, and she is the one who has cleaned the floors in the month that I've been there. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk, but I think you would be an idiot if you kept living there. Seriously, this lady sounds insane. For starters, why are you subleasing from someone who literally is not letting the landlord know what's going on? That sounds incredibly sketchy, and I just don't think that's a good idea. Not to mention the fact that she really just does not sound like a good person. Like overall, across the board, it seems like she's just waiting to have some reason to get back at you or to get you in trouble for something you didn't do. And I've got to tell you, if that was me in your shoes and this lady was kicking me off the Wi-Fi over and over again, I would lose my mind. I would go nuts. I'd be like, listen, either give me the Wi-Fi or I'm gonna have a long talk with the landlord about what you're secretly doing. So I know if I was in your situation, I would be finding a new place to live. I would not want to live with someone who's messing with me on a daily basis while I'm literally working, 12 hours a day, 60 hours a week? I would be way too exhausted to deal with that crap every single day, and I think that lady's attitude and behavior would truly drive me up a wall. Am I the jerk for swearing at my sister's boyfriend after he falsely accused me of stealing from my own family home? Because right now I'm still pissed off and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old male and I recently moved out of my dad's house into my own apartment with a friend. My dad still lives with my brother, my sister, and her boyfriend of 5 years, and I moved out amicably over a variety of reasons. I've been back to my dad's once every week to visit, and this has gone pretty well. My sister and her boyfriend work the third shift, and it's mostly been visiting my dad and my brother, and everything was fine until last Friday came around. My sister's boyfriend randomly asked me if I took any silverware. My dad has been in my place and is aware that I have my own, and after I said no, he says the silverware silverware's disappeared recently, and I say that I just didn't take it. He then says, well, the only variables are that half the silverware's gone and you moved out. And when he said this, I exploded. My sister's boyfriend said something to the effect of, oh, I'm just asking questions. I'm not accusing you of anything, which didn't stop me. In my mind, after he said what he said, it turned into an accusation and a press. I said that if he really was asking questions, he would have dropped it after my first no. He then went off about how someone must have thrown it out, but I kept pressing him about the accusation. My dad stepped in and explained that I was innocent and then separated us. Eventually, our screaming woke my sister up and she yelled at us to be quiet. And once I explained the situation, she yelled at him. Every time he tried to defend or explain himself, I yelled back, which devolved into my sister yelling at us to shut up so that she can get some sleep before work. My dad politely asked me to leave, and before I left, I screamed out and said, you want to accuse me of stealing from my own family? Screw you. And then I left. My brother was outside when this popped off, so I vented to him. I was screaming, swearing the whole 9 yards, specifically saying all kinds of swear words about the boyfriend, amongst every other name in the book. I said that I wish my sister left him when they had relationship troubles, and he just completely heard my rant. My brother tried to say that I was taking my sister's boyfriend out of context because he took back his accusation. We argued about that more civilly, and then I eventually left. After I got back to my apartment, I sent a text to my brother and my dad saying that I wouldn't be at Easter and that I wanted an apology from my sister's boyfriend. I apologized to my sister for waking her up, and then I left it at that. Well, my sister's boyfriend wants an apology for swearing at him. My dad and brother think that it is reasonable because in their eyes, we both acted badly. Two wrongs don't make a right, and that I wasn't justified in swearing at him. My brother doesn't think it was an accusation, and my dad thinks that I'm overreacting. Because my sister's boyfriend took it back, it wasn't that bad. My sister is fighting me, and they've been fighting ever since. I told them I wasn't going to apologize for reacting to his smears, and that he crossed the line. My dad and my brother are trying to keep the peace, which I am really disappointed in. So truly, am I the jerk if I choose not to apologize? Because this entire situation is incredibly enraging. Okay, in my opinion, it kind of seems like everybody sucks here, because seriously, first of all, who's going to accuse someone of stealing utensils, and then who's going to freak out in the way that you did? It seems like you wanted to yell at the boyfriend for a variety of reasons, and this just happened to be like the best excuse possible. So in my opinion, I think you're both kind of at fault here. This got blown way out of proportion in a way that was completely inappropriate, and I think if you have any hope of like having any kind of peace in that house ever again, it would be better just to swallow your pride, say your apology, and be done with it. Otherwise, I don't see this situation ever getting better. My entitled Karen of a neighbor decides to get nasty with me after I simply request that she not park her car in front of my house. But after she refused to move and got really nasty with me, I decided to get some petty revenge by not only uncovering that her house was actually an Airbnb, but also shutting down her entire operation in a way that she will probably never financially recover from ever again. Here's what happened. So I live in a small neighborhood with maybe 20 total homes. Each home has about 50 plus feet of road frontage, 3 plus car garages, large driveways, and parking is permitted on both sides of the street. So as such, there is never a reason to park in front of a home that isn't yours or that you're not visiting unless there's some sort of event. Most of the neighbors are friendly and know each other, so in the time I've lived here, parking has never been an issue until about last month. Last month, a neighbor from the far other end of the development started parking daily and overnight in the smack dab middle of our property's road frontage. Now, I thought this was odd, but maybe she's having work done on her driveway and just wants to park away from the fumes. I honestly don't really know, and things happen, so it's not that big of a deal. But after 5 nights of this, I'm getting a little bit fed up. The yard guys can't cut the grass where her car is located. Deliveries of large items are postponed because they can't get up our driveway without the extra turning radius. So with all that in mind, I leave a note on her windshield. Now, this is a quick note explaining that it would normally be a non-issue, but we have some deliveries coming, and it would help us out if she would move her car back to her home this week. Well, we got no response, and instead the note is gone the next morning, and the car is still there. Then our neighbors text us and said, hey, you might want to watch out for the mean neighbor down the street. She started cussing me out for the note left on her windshield and said it was public property so she could park there if she wanted to. And that is honestly not cool. But since I don't want to pick a fight, what is there to be done? The next time she moves her car, I pull my own in front of my house. And this does not make her happy. And she spends the next few days flipping off my Ring doorbell from the street and leaving notes on my car that are never threatening but are also never kind. And after reading these swear words and these awful notes, I decide, okay, game on. Let's do this. It didn't take much digging to realize that they were really unusual. There were out-of-state cars parked at her actual home, and it took even less digging to find out that her home was listed on Airbnb Airbnb, and she was pricing it way more per night than her entire mortgage. Well, after a few quick calls to the county, and what do you know it, the Airbnb and short-term rentals are completely forbidden. No exceptions, especially in our neighborhood. On top of that, the county zoning commissioner finds out that she's been renting out her home for almost half a decade, and each rental violation equates to a $250 fine. So I'm sure you can do the math to see how bad this is going to be for her. I'm not sure what happened after, but we do know that she received a court order of some sort, and more importantly, that she stopped parking in front of our house. So I guess now she's gonna have to find a job that doesn't include flipping people off all day. Oh man, this is hilarious to me because seriously, this lady deserved this kind of treatment. I think any honest person would have been like, oh, I'm so sorry if my car's blocking your driveway. Here, let me move it down the street or in front of my own house. Sorry about that. And then just moved on and did her own thing. But it's the fact that she wanted to fight you on that, and she was so aggressive toward you, all because of a simple note, really screams the fact that she 100% had something to hide. And I love, just from some simple digging, that you found out her Airbnb was literally illegal. So good for you for getting some solid revenge on this idiot. Her attitude towards you and the rest of the neighborhood was completely uncalled for. And the fact that she probably got shut down in a major way, while also taking a huge financial hit, in my opinion, is the kind of karma that we love to see. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk for asking my future brother-in-law and his wife to return an expensive gift that I gave them after they limited contact with me? Because right now, I'm worried this might ruin everything in our family dynamic, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my partner, who we will call Jamie, for over 6 years now, and we're getting married this fall. For most of our relationship, I've had a close bond with his brother, who we will call Matt, and Matt's wife, who we will call Claire. We've shared holidays and dinners and hangouts together, and I've always done what I could to support them, especially during hard times. And for reference and as a side note, I'm the primary source of income. About 2 months ago, I bought a new car and I offered them my old car for about $6,000. It was still in good working condition and they accepted it, so I fully transferred it over to them. It was a genuine gift from a place of love and support, and I was happy to help because they relied 100% on public transportation. Over the past few years, I also gave small things like household items, groceries, things for their kid, all of which were meant kindly and never with any expectations. But now things have shifted. Claire recently initiated a conversation where she said the gifts and emotional support that I offered had felt too much and a little bit overwhelming, and even went as far as saying that she felt I was using them to fulfill my own emotional needs. She says she no longer feels comfortable around me and wants to limit contact, meaning that I don't text them unless they text me first, and that all of this needs to slow down. Well, this completely blindsided me because I was never given any indication before that she felt this way. Now, one example that Claire brought up really confused me. They have a shy cat called Shadow who hides whenever we visit. We've never seen her in person, and it becomes a running joke between me and Jamie that she might not actually exist, which is basically like an inside joke reference to an M&M Christmas commercial. Well, Claire said that she found that joke offensive, like we were mocking a traumatized animal, but that felt like a major overreaction to something lighthearted and affectionate. Now, here's the part that's really been weighing on me. Claire and Matt have made it clear that they don't want any more gifts or support, and that our relationship needs distance. Gifts for their kids are okay, and they're still happy to keep the car that I gave them, which is something that came from a time when our relationship was close, warm, and mutual. Now, to be clear, I haven't asked for the car back, but I've been thinking about sending a message and not demanding anything, but pointing out the emotional disconnect, that they've rejected ongoing support, suggested past support was not genuine, and yet still have no issue keeping a significant gift, namely the car. I want to ask them to reflect on what that really means. Jamie is supportive of whatever decision I make, but he is worried that this might further rupture things with his family. His mom also relies on Matt and Claire for transportation to our wedding, and he's concerned that asking for the car back, or even just bringing it up, might make this way more complicated. So truly, would I be the jerk if I did this? Because right now, I'm still incredibly confused. Okay, you might not like what I'm gonna say, but honestly, I don't think it's worth it. It's pretty clear that Matt and Claire have taken advantage of your kindness for the last time, and that is unacceptable. Like, truly, you don't deserve that. And the fact that they don't see that this is not some kind of like manipulation scheme, and instead it's so that you can help them out and be kind to them, then screw them. They don't deserve your kindness, and you can focus that elsewhere. And the fact that they're trying to be like, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed by all the good things you're giving us. Like, I can understand that to an extent, but the way this is being described is almost as if they don't even care about you as the person, but instead they just want the gift or whatever you're giving them, as if they don't want to be emotionally connected to you, even though they're their family. So honestly, truly, if I was in your shoes, I would say, okay, I'm gonna take the message and I'm not gonna look back. I wouldn't ask for any explanation or any kind of like further proof that no, they don't actually care and they've never gotten the fact that I've always cared, because it just would not be worth it. And in my opinion, I think Jamie in this story is 100% correct. Based on the way they've reacted, this really will just cause problems for the future wedding you guys are gonna have. And that, in my opinion, makes the entire scenario of approaching them again completely not worth it. Customers come into my restaurant constantly and never realize that we are closed on Mondays. And since I'm up front all the time, I constantly have to deliver this bad news, resulting in these people acting like it's the end of the world. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I always check either the restaurant's website or Google for hours that they are open. And yes, granted, not everyone has phones, etc. to check, and sometimes what is listed is wrong, especially for holidays. But I just thought that was a given that everyone does that, but apparently not. The amount of people, both old and young, who have given me crap for us not being open on Mondays is wild. For context, we're a golf course and country club, and I work in the golf shop and bar. But the restaurant that is attached is always closed on Mondays. It's not a new thing, and it's clearly listed on our website and on Google. In fact, where I live, it is really common for almost all restaurants to be closed on Mondays. So I'm running the bar and I'm checking in golfers, kind of just a one-person operation kind of day. A middle-aged couple comes in and stands at the host stand, by which they can clearly see the dining room is dimly lit and all the chairs are stacked and there's literally nobody around. They stand there for a few minutes while I'm finishing with the customer at the bar, and I start to head over and they immediately are like, "Can we get a table of 4?" And I just say my usual, "Well, unfortunately the restaurant is closed on Mondays, but the bar is open if you want to just grab a drink." The lady then just sort of sputters like I broke her brain, and she says to me, "What? But we invited friends out." I then apologize, even though it has literally nothing to do with me, and I am not at fault in this situation. But after I said that, they stormed out. But it's like, maybe check if somewhere is open before you invite friends out for dinner. And trust me, this is only one out of many Monday encounters here, because people are clearly too stupid to check if something's open or if they're closed. Man, I resonate with this so much because the original poster is correct. Customers, in my opinion, can either be really smart and normal, neutral people who come in for their stuff and they just get out and give you no problems, or they can be like the couple in this story where they literally just don't know what's going on. It seems like they just stumble through life and whatever happens, happens, and they literally just don't know what's going on at all. So the fact that they gave you a hard time, like that part alone really pisses me off, because it's like, dude, I don't own the restaurant. I literally just work here, like I have no control over any of this. I'm just as much annoyed that I have to deal with you as you are with a freaking restaurant. So yeah, people like this really suck, and I don't blame you for being annoyed, because if I was in your shoes, I would also be incredibly pissed off. Am I the jerk for telling a guest that she can't bring her +1, even though days earlier I said that she could, before I realized that we were over our limit for my wedding? Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female, and my fiance and I are getting married on May 18th of this year. The package we chose was a small elopement package with up to 50 guests to cut down on the cost. The total amount we were paying was $5,500. Now, I don't work because I'm currently finishing my associate's degree, and my fiance is in the army. My fiance's mom is the one paying for the wedding by herself because my family has not offered to help out. Now, we sent out invitations last month in March and gave a deadline of April 18th, which was 1 month before the wedding day, to give guests enough time to RSVP. Now, I received an RSVP from my partner's godmother, who is, by the way, his friend's mom, who he has known since the 3rd grade, on April 19th, saying she was coming and asking did she have to send the RSVP back, and I told her no, I can do it on my end. Well, jump to today, and I reached out to her after realizing we were over our limit and let her know that she may not be able to bring her boyfriend. She then turns around and says that she isn't coming, and then asks me who I did uninvite or tell that they can't bring their partner to the wedding, which I feel is not relevant to her. Now, to give a bit of backstory, I have a feeling that she never liked me. She flat out called me ghetto when she first met me because of what I wore and the nails I had on, and she became nicer recently, but I have a feeling it was a front because of my partner. Now, for a bit of further information, each guest is an extra $40 on top of our venue fee. Now, when we sent out invitations, we were expecting a lot of people not to show up because our wedding is on a Sunday, and because a lot of people have work and kids still have to be in school. To be fair, my own siblings aren't coming to the wedding, and I'm not even sure my own parents are coming because my dad told my sister that he really does not want to miss church, and they live in North Carolina and I live in Florida. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest. I really think the original poster is the jerk because they seriously said, oh yeah, you could bring your boyfriend with you, and like that really should have been the end of it, no matter what happens. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like you have room in the wedding for other people to show up. And the fact that you're not willing to pay an extra $40 so that they can show up, you know, the godmother of your future husband, like that's really toxic and there's no reason for that in the slightest. Especially when you promise that this would be an option later on and then go back and be like, never mind, it's too expensive. When in reality, it's not that expensive. You're just being weird and you're being a tightwad for no reason. So yes, I would say that the original poster is the jerk, and unfortunately, based on the way the godmother reacted, this might be outside of your control in trying to repair it. My coworker says that she's going to will her dogs to me if she passes away anytime soon, saying that she appreciates me for all the things that I've done for her. But honestly, I really don't want that, and I'm worried that she might actually follow through with it. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my coworker had asked me to check on her dogs while she's away dealing with a family emergency on the other side of the country. Now, she wants me to house sit and spend 2 nights at her house to watch her dogs so they aren't alone. I said yes to checking in on her dogs, and I told her I would think about staying overnight. She is a very nice lady, and unfortunately doesn't have anyone else who can help her out. The problem is that I am not comfortable staying the night. I don't know the area, I've never been to her house, and I would be alone. For reference, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I get very nervous in new environments, especially by myself. She is aware that I'm an anxious person and that I have PTSD, and I want to tell her that I'm not comfortable without making her upset or having her assume it's got something to do with her. She is kind of a loose cannon, and I do not want to make her feel bad. She doesn't really have any good relationships with any one of our other coworkers besides me. We've been working together for 6 months, and she also stated before she left today that no one ever helps her, and she would really appreciate me staying there for the 2 nights. Well, I feel guilty for not feeling comfortable with this, and I don't know how to tell her no in a way that doesn't offend her. I really want to help out, and she's offered to pay me, which I will not accept due to her current financial situation. I'm also worried that if I don't set a boundary now, she might start asking for more favors in the future. So seriously, how do I gently set a boundary without upsetting her? Because right now, I'm not sure how to go about doing this. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so this is an update to my previous post about setting a boundary with the same coworker in regards to house sitting and dog sitting while she was away for family emergencies. I checked in and fed her dogs daily while she was away, but also I did not spend those nights at her house. She didn't and still doesn't have any local reliable friends or family who could help her out during this emergency. I also did not accept the money she tried to give me. She slipped it into my backpack after I refused the first time, and when I found it, I left it in her house after I was done feeding her dogs. And I did this because she is struggling financially, so it didn't feel right to accept the money. Well, she told me I've restored her faith in humanity, that we're basically sisters, and that if she were to pass away, she's willing her dogs to me. I immediately said I wouldn't be able to keep them because there's 3 of them, and I could not afford that kind of commitment. She basically said that I'd fall in love with them and it would work itself out. Now, I care about her and her feelings. I want the best for her, but I'm worried that if she starts to think about willing her dogs to me, she might consider willing me other things too. And this is an assumption based on a previous situation where she changed her will for someone else, seemingly without much consideration. She's not dying, by the way, at least not that I know of, and I don't know how to express that our relationship has completely exceeded coworker status, which is not necessarily something I wanted or expected. I usually keep to myself at work, and I try to not get too close to people. A job is just a job, and I don't want to feel tied to people if I want to quit in the future. We work one-on-one in a very small office. I see her nearly every day, and severing or stepping back from the relationship would 100% make things very uncomfortable for me. So how do I make sure that she doesn't and can't will her dogs to me or anything else, because I really don't want that? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I think learning how to say no would really do you a lot of benefit. I totally understand that you're trying to spare feelings here, but saying no doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're mean to them or you're unkind, but instead it shows that you have clear boundaries and you don't want her to cross them. And I think that's a completely reasonable thing to expect. And when it comes to her willing her dogs over to you, I would seriously just not get caught up in the details about that. If she does bring it up again, I would say no, I don't want that, and then leave it at that. Because I'm pretty sure if you do get willed her dogs, you can say no, I don't want them, and then it goes to somebody else or someone else will take care of them. And no, that's not you being heartless. It would be more heartless for you to take them on and not be able to take care of them. Like, that would be the worst situation than you saying no. So yeah, your coworker clearly has nobody else and she's attached to you because you've been kind to her, and if I was in your shoes, I would continue to do so. But that doesn't mean that you can't expect some kind of boundaries between the two of you, because if you're not careful, things can get out of control probably pretty quickly. I'm planning on moving back home after I graduate college, all because the city that I go to school in is extremely expensive. And at this point, I'm dreading going back back home because I know it's only going to be drama involving money and how much time I get to spend by myself. Here's what happened. I graduate college in just a couple more weeks, and the idea of moving back home stresses me out. I live in this expensive city, so I can't immediately rent an apartment or a studio, which means I'm going to be stuck at home for more time than I'd like. My parents just bought a house when it was extremely out of their budget, and I'm worried that they're going to ask me to pay more than I can for rent. They've joked about me covering the water bill and then the electricity bill, and my dad especially has always asked me for money. It's a reoccurring problem where they make their problems and scarcity my problem too. My dad told me the other day that he took out a $70,000 loan from his job to make the mortgage slightly cheaper and is always telling me how he had to pay all these bills and has no money now. He guilt trips me into covering gas, bills, and even groceries. We went to the supermarket after he told me to buy toilet paper and milk, and at the checkout line, he made a scene thanking me for offering to cover it, just to then go home and vent to my mom, and she tells me that she had given him money to buy it in the first place. Unsurprisingly, we made a pit stop at the convenience store before heading home so that he could buy scratch-off tickets. They get upset when I want to travel, and they get upset if I want to go to my boyfriend's house. They've been making me feel like crap if I choose to stay on campus for the weekend just to simply focus on studying. And whenever I try to tell them how their words make me feel, they invalidate them by saying that they just miss me and can't help but feel that way. I went home for Easter and Marathon Monday, and just being home for the 3-day weekend already has me massively dreading this move back home. So it's basically time for me to fight for an ounce of my independence again. I'm also planning on opening a new bank account and slowly moving my money. It's currently a joint account because I know they're going to be upset once they notice what's happening, and I really didn't want to deal with it in the past. And in the past, I didn't have the guts to deal with the shaming and the guilt tripping. Also, I'm going to be setting an expectation of what I will contribute so that they aren't asking me more than I can give. Let's pray to God this goes smoothly because every time I go home, I just feel so overwhelmed and overstimulated with their judgment. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Man, I'm really sorry this is going on, but seriously, you should have your own bank account by this point. The fact that it's a joint account is probably why they're asking you for money all the time. Like, your finances at this point are a private endeavor. It is literally none of their business. So if I was in your shoes before even moving back, I would set up a bank account like today. It's super simple and you can literally set it up online. And then once that bank account's set up, I would move all of that money immediately. And if they say anything about it, like, wait, what are you doing? I would tell them, hey, I'm a college graduate. I've got to have my own bank account, right? Or even something like that if you're trying to be subtle and not make a big deal about it. So that way, they'll hopefully stop asking you for so much money, because based on what you described, it sounds incredibly egregious and very toxic. My entitled mother-in-law thinks that she owns her son, constantly demanding all these awful things out of him, while also ignoring the fact that he has horrible anxiety literally caused by her. And now that we're moving out and moving away, she's demanding that we stay closer so that we can meet her needs and still fall in the same cycle that my fiance has dealt with his entire life. And at this point, we're honestly so frustrated that we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I have been dealing with his mother, who is the entitled parent of this story. For a bit of background information to help explain, my fiance, who I will refer to as Tom, lost his father young to a brain tumor. He was 10 when he passed away, so for the past 10 years, it's been him and his mom. His mom has controlled a lot of aspects of his life, down to keeping his meds and not letting him explore options for medication, while Tom has fibromyalgia and suffers from anxiety to the point where he's throwing up when he tries to travel. Tom had a really awful experience with his father's death, so his anxiety is based around medical situations and death itself. Despite knowing this, his mother has constantly shown tough love, which to her means little to no empathy, and constantly pushing Tom to do things he's unable to. When living at home, he would cook for her and clean for her and make her bed, as well as walk the dogs and feed them, make her coffee whenever she asked for it, or even look after his grandma, do the laundry, mow the lawn, basically anything she can't bother to be doing herself. I mean, the list goes on and on. As I mentioned earlier, he has fibromyalgia, which means he is in pain most of the time, and things like making the bed would leave him having to lay down for hours. Throughout his life, his mom has talked him in and out of so many situations against his own better judgment, beginning with what GCSEs that he took, just to his image and self-expression. And for reference, these are some very important tests that you take in the United Kingdom. His mother has been a center point of his anxiety too, mainly because of the ways that she is with him, insisting he's the only one who can help her with his grandmother, and more guilt-tripping tactics. Tom has stated that he can't go through the process of a terminal illness, taking over another person he loves, and yet his mom seems to think that she has him and only him. Basically, everything with her is an issue if not to her liking. When we began dating, Tom opened up to me about her, and from the very beginning, beginning, I have advocated him to leave home as the detriment it has on his physical health and mental health is too extreme. Tom had zero space to talk about this behavior from his mom, so when he began living with me back in February of 2025, he has been able to open up to a therapist. Now, back in December of 2024, his grandma had a fall, and he assisted her along with his mom and told her on this day he cannot handle the deterioration of his grandmother's health. Well, due to this, him and I emptied the front room so that his grandma could live with him and his mother. Tom's grandma moved in, and during the move-in, his mom was ordering us about and trying to micromanage every step. And that's when I fully understood exactly what he has dealt with his entire life. Anyways, after that, the thank you was practically non-existent, and I only helped as I didn't want Tom to go through this alone. On New Year's Eve, Tom's mom broke her foot, which meant Tom and I had to stay with her for a while in this time, and I finally got to witness the audacity of this idiot. I smoked the grass, if you know what I mean, and Tom's mom suggested an entirely new wardrobe of clothing for when I'm at her house because the smell made her feel sick. I rely on benefits entirely as I am disabled, and I have complex PTSD-induced psychosis, so I can't afford this. I didn't smoke at her house or around her, it was just my clothing that smelled a bit grassy. It was endless comments and just chores all over the place, and at the end of it, we would just be excited to come back to my place and just rest. This was also the situation for months, and we were getting so fed up and burnt out. In December of 2025, we left Tom's mom's house for our usual 4 days off. However, from this point, we have not been back, and this is because Tom's anxiety had a major relapse and left him sobbing in my arms and throwing up at the thought of leaving the house. Due to this, the car has become a major difficulty and a source of chronic pain. His mom has not understood this and therefore has damaged the little relationship that they had. We have been looking to move out of my current flat due to being unhappy with where we are, but Tom's mom wants us to live within walking distance of her. However, me and Tom have plans to move somewhere else. Anyways, now his mom rings him up asking him how the move is going, and she has been constantly recommending moving closer to her place, and today she asked us to move closer so that we can give her a break from looking after Tom's grandma, suggesting that if we move closer, we can claim an allowance for being a caretaker, even though neither of us are willing to do so. It's a responsibility that neither of us can hold. Our life is hard enough as it is, and looking after the elderly is not something we're able to do. It's not about abandoning family. It's about the trauma and disabilities, and the simple fact that we just don't want to live there. In this call, I lost my patience and I finally said, we can't pause our life and just move where you want. Tom has a lot of things he's going through already. I barely finished this sentence before she interrupted, insisting that I took it wrong. Well, Tom was really anxious, and I was raging sick of this woman, and sick of her thinking her son is just there to support her. She is his mother, and yet the roles are reversed. After the phone call, Tom received a message asking to speak without me present, and this was to say again that I misunderstood, but I didn't misunderstand. I stood up for Tom, and she didn't like that. So at this point, we've had enough of her behavior and her manipulation, but at this point, we don't know what to do. Oh man, I feel so bad for Tom, it's not even funny. Tom's mom sounds like a nightmare human being, and I'm so sorry that he had to deal with that. It's crazy how much damage a parent can do to a child, especially when the child is literally a grown adult and they're still having trouble functioning as an adult in society. So truly, I hope your fiance finds the help that he needs and that he gets away from his mother and doesn't have to deal with her in this capacity any longer, because she sounds like an awful human being, and I'm honestly so proud that you stood up for him, because clearly his mom's been taking advantage of him for far too long. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic mom got scammed and bought a $7,000 skincare tool, but the second I tried to ask her about it, she got really pissed off at me and got incredibly nasty, making me question if I'm gonna end up exactly like my mom. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom was recently scammed by one of those hard sell skincare companies that typically operate in malls and airports, and she literally purchased a skincare tool for $7,000. She emailed me all the details on it so I could save her warranty for her, and that's a long story in and of itself, but she basically emails me things so that I can save them for her. Among the things that she sent me is a picture of her smiling with a salesperson, looking like an absolute fool. Well, I Google this skincare tool and I can see that it's a total scam. They start by telling people the tool is worth $12,000 and then offer it to them for $8,000. Based on what I read, most people resist long enough to get the cost down to about $1,500, but nope, my mom didn't do that. Instead, she paid $7,000 for it. I tried asking her about it, but in true old person fashion, she got all nasty with me over it. It is so frustrating. My grandma got scammed all the time by religious groups, and it used to drive my mom insane. And now my mom is constantly being robbed by natural health or beauty people. And it makes me wonder if all of us are doomed to become like this one day, because this is truly a sad thing to see. Wow, how did your mom not know that was a scam? $7,000 for skincare? Are you kidding me right now? Nothing should cost that much. Literally nothing with skincare or anything like that. Unless you're paying for like a laser therapy thing, but even then, I'm sure insurance or even like the self-pay cost wouldn't be that much. And I just love the fact that your mom got pissed off about it and got nasty with you, all because you asked questions about it and tried to get more information. So yeah, that kind of situation is definitely not your problem, and I really think that because she got pissed off at you, that's hopefully proof that she has buyer's remorse and probably regrets buying this piece of garbage. Am I the jerk for explaining to my future sister-in-law why her kids will never receive an inheritance from us? Because right now she's pissed off and she simply refuses to understand, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a brother who has been dating his girlfriend, who we will call Sarah, for 2 years now, and he proposed a couple of months ago. Sarah has 2 kids from her previous relationship, and she has an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. I would say that my parents and I are not very close to Sarah and her kids, but we are cordial and never had any problems before. My partner, myself, my brother, and Sarah attended the Easter dinner at my parents' house, and that's when all the drama happened. Sarah's kids were at their father's house, so Sarah used this celebration to confront us about my brother requesting a prenup. Basically, my brother explained to her that he expects them to sign a prenuptial agreement and that only his biological kids will have the right to inherit anything from our family assets. This is something that we as a family discussed before, and we all agreed that only our children should receive assets or money from our inheritance. My brother is free to pay whatever he wants for his stepchildren out of his own money, but my children and his biological children will never have to share anything that our family has with them. Well, Sarah claimed that we are being unfair and that we are treating her and her kids like some strangers instead of embracing them like family. She said that the normal and decent thing to do was for us to see her kids like my brother's kids, who should have equal rights to any children they may have together. Well, I told her sure, after she gets married to my brother, she will become our in-law and her kids will be my brother's stepchildren, but this does not mean that we have to share anything with them. I then asked her, will my future kids receive anything from her parents or from their biological father's parents? She said no, obviously, so I asked her then why would her kids be entitled to receive anything from us? Sarah said because they will be our family, so I told her that we have plenty of cousins that are also family, but I don't go around wishing to share my inheritance with them. There was a lot of back and forth between us, and Sarah was not letting this go. Eventually, my brother asked her to stop because we were there to celebrate Easter and not to have this kind of conversation, but she kept on going, saying we need to clarify it once and for all. I told her from where we stand, everything is clear, and it is only her who has a problem. Well, she said that we're greedy and cruel to some kids, and I just snapped at her. I told her to deal with it. She is free to work off her butt and gather assets to leave her children, but we will never divide anything outside of our family, and she should not expect her children to be our problem or burden to finance. I honestly feel she is very manipulative and is using my brother for what she and her kids can get from him, but that's my brother's problem to decide if this is the kind of partner that he wants. So I just want to know if I was too blunt in telling her the truth, because right now I'm not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think the fact that she kept pushing the issue and being like, you're cruel, you're not thinking of my kids, how dare you? Like, honestly, that's so weird because most like inheritance agreements usually have the stipulation where it's like, yeah, only like direct descendants get the money, not anyone who's like a stepkid or anything like that. And that really is like a normal thing. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you were well within your rights to snap at her and be like, listen, you've got to stop, because her attitude towards you was really entitled and super manipulative. My best friend told her mom my secrets, but twisted it in such a way where it ruined my family's reputation. And now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm from a very reputation-based culture, and it's normal to live with family until you're married. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I told my 23-year-old female friend that I was stressed about living at home with my parents. I also probably told her about some fights that I have with my parents, and made her swear not to tell a single soul, not even her sisters or her parents, and she assured me that she wouldn't. Fast forward a few years later, and I'm visiting a family friend, and she wanted to ask me in private if my relationship with my parents are okay. I asked her why she wanted to know, and she said, well, your friend said you wanted to run away from home and that you hate your parents. Mind you, I've since then mended my relationship with my parents. Also, plenty of other girls my age fight with their parents and want to move out. It's a natural part of growing up and needing your own space. But the fact that a completely unrelated person told me that my friend told her mom and her sisters, who in turn told someone else who told someone else. I'm literally crying as I type this because I feel so betrayed. The kicker is that her relationship with her mom is terrible. I'm talking to the point where she called her a narcissist and extremely mentally unstable, and yet still she told her? It's like, what are you doing? And now I'm at a point where I don't know what to do. I'm thinking of pretending that I don't even know that she did that, but the damage has been done. My parents' reputation are also affected by this, and they're the most supportive and sweet people. I feel so angry and betrayed. What should I do? Holy crap, that's a massive breach of trust. If a friend of mine did that, I would lose my mind. I would not only never trust them ever again, but I would also never share any information with them ever. Like, I would even think about just like removing them as a friend from my life altogether, because this is so toxic. Like, you really did try to share this in confidence, and they ruined that confidence by spreading a false rumor about you. Because as far as you told us, you didn't say you wanted to run away from home. You just said you're having some problems and you don't like what's going on right now. So for her to go around saying stuff like that, it's honestly just so awful. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would approach her. I would say, hey, what you did was not okay, and I don't appreciate you spreading rumors about me. Because you said it yourself. You come from a very reputation-based culture, and the fact that they're trying to ruin that reputation, in my opinion, is something that should not go unpunished. My mother-in-law made my miscarriage all about her, and she spread the news like wildfire to the entire family as if this was some kind of fun gossip that she could talk about. And right now, me and my husband are so heartbroken that we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I found out that we were pregnant back in early January. We unfortunately miscarried and found out the baby had no heartbeat on February 26th. For about 2 weeks after that, I was physically going through a miscarriage, which meant that I was going through some very physically straining things while also being mentally distraught. I cried for a week straight. We lived in a different state from our family, so we were basically going through this all alone. As soon as we found out about the miscarriage, my fiance told my parents and then told his mother. His mother was excited about becoming a grandmother and whatnot, and I'm not sure how the phone call went, but presumably it went fine. However, the next day he was receiving text messages from distant family members sending their condolences or whatnot, but immediately we knew that she had been telling people. I told my fiance that he should at least tell his dad, as his parents are divorced, and tell his siblings before his mom gets to them first. Well, once he called them to tell the news, they already knew about it. In fact, everybody knew about this. This honestly pissed me off. I do not think it's her place to share this news, and also, she never texted me. She never called me to ask how I'm doing or anything like that. I felt like something so personal that I was experiencing was reduced to basically some sort of gossip. My fiance then texted her and said, "Why are you telling everybody?" And she just ignored the message. She never even tried to call him either. He decided to just ignore her as well, because she would text him periodically random stuff, like her flight information if she was flying, but again, it was just random stuff. So whatever. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and we decided to just plan our wedding since we've been engaged for 3 years. I sent out our save the dates, which she has not responded to or asked us about. I felt that this would be the perfect opportunity for her to reach out and, I don't know, be a mother for once. But a couple of days ago, she FaceTimes my fiance, but he was working, so he called her back the next day. We thought she was finally going to ask about the wedding or maybe say sorry, but no, she was just calling because she was on vacation and wanted to show him some stuff. This annoyed my fiance, and he said to her, "Oh, I thought you were going to apologize." And she said, "I never saw that message." My fiance then said, "Okay, well, you still told everyone when it wasn't your place to." And she said, "I only told your dad and sister," which by the way was a complete lie, since distant family on her side have been texting us all about it. At this point, my fiance just hangs up because he just can't take the lies anymore. She then sent him a text message. "You know what? I'm sorry that you feel some type of way, or that you're trying to be some type of victims, because I feel the way I feel about losing the excitement in being a grandmother. It's unfortunate that you feel the need to punish me for my feelings. These are your choices. I am not a bad person. Clearly, you feel otherwise. That is your opinion. Sorry for not being what you expected as a mother." And it's like, ma'am, we kind of are the victims. Does she really think that she's the victim here? Because whatever she felt, we felt over 20 times over. At this point, I really hope she doesn't make it to the wedding, because she is just drama. Because I am still shaken up by the way my mother-in-law treated me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot believe she's acting like that, because seriously, that is so uncalled for. Because you hit the nail on the head. This mother-in-law literally made this miscarriage all about her. She's trying to be like, "Wow, my feelings are valid. Sorry you feel that way." But it's like, do you not realize that they lost a child? They literally lost their baby, and you're trying to make this about you? Like, my God, that is so inappropriate. And I guarantee you, the only reason she wanted to share the news with the rest of the family is so that she can somehow insert herself as like the middleman between the info. And I honestly can't stand people like that, and I can't stand the fact that she probably enjoyed sharing that with everybody, as if this is some kind of fun gossip to spread around. Which, by the way, it definitely is not. So truly, if I was in your place and I dealt with this, I would seriously consider like canceling her invitation to the wedding. I would say straight up, you can either apologize for what you did, or you're just not going to be welcome at the wedding. Obviously, that's your choice, and you know the situation way better than I do, but based off of what you said, there's no way on earth I would ever put up with that. Would I be the jerk if I didn't go to one of my best friend's bachelorette party when I also told her that I'm not going to her wedding? Because right now, I feel like I'm stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So one of my best friends, who we will call Rachel, is having a destination wedding in 2026. We, as a friend group of 3 people, are straight out of college and finding our footing. Some are trying to move out, we need new vehicles, we have student loans, and not all of us have stable jobs yet. So basically, it's not a good time for us financially. The plane tickets are almost $1,000, plus the passport and fees being about $195, plus due to resort policy, we couldn't all split a room, so it would be about $700 each. On top of that, the bridesmaid dress is about $150, not to mention the other miscellaneous wedding costs that we would incur. But then, Rachel wants a travel bachelorette party, which is a couple $100s, plus any amount of money for her wedding shower and other events. My friends and I came to the extremely difficult decision that we will not be attending, but when we told her, it did not go over well. She grossly underestimated how much it would cost and made some very rude comments to each of us. We had a long conversation with her and tried to come at it as compassionately as possible. During that, Rachel said she absolutely could not have us at her bachelorette party. So we said we understood and told her to do what is best for her and her mental health. Well, fast forward a day and we were put in a group chat with Rachel and her wedding party, giving details about an Airbnb for her bachelorette party. It would be about $215 each girl, and there are 12 people, so we wouldn't even all get a bed, but we also didn't have to decide anything for a while. Over the next 2 months, Rachel has barely spoken to us, which is abnormal because we would all talk every single day. I said to the other girls, namely my college friends and not the whole party, that if she's going to freeze us out and resent us forever, then I cannot justify dropping a couple hundred on a trip that I'm not in a position to take. And when I said that, 2 of them agreed. But then, fast forward to yesterday, we get a message from her matron of honor saying Rachel changed the Airbnb, so now it's going to be $500 a person, and part of our cut pays for Rachel's stay. Well, us 4 talked privately and agreed that it is not feasible, especially for someone not really talking to us. Rachel's maid of honor also said she cannot afford that. Rachel's mom told her to choose something cheaper, and she chose a new place that would be $240 per girl, which doesn't include daily food or whatever event she might want to do. So right now I feel really stuck. I know to many that $240 is probably not a lot, but to me it is. Plus, I don't like how she's freezing us out, has the nerve to pick an Airbnb that's over $5,000, and just the general microaggressions from her. Part of me wonders if we were only invited so that the split Airbnb costs would go down. I honestly can't even see her wanting to be friends in a year, so I don't know if I can just justify dropping that cash. Like, how do you expect people, especially fresh out of college, to spend thousands of dollars on your wedding, your bachelorette party, and your shower? So seriously, would I be the jerk if I decided not to go? I feel like a horrible person, but I think if I do go, at this point, it's only to keep up the appearances of being in a friendship. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I do not think you should go on this because this sounds insane. First of all, she's not respecting the fact that you guys said multiple times you don't want to do this, but also it seems like the price is always fluctuating. How on earth is this fair for anybody trying to plan things out? And sure, Rachel's your friend, you love her, and you went to college with her, and you want the best for her no matter what, but the way she's going about doing this is really immature and very stupid, because it's like, listen, you're all poor college students who just recently graduated. No one can afford even half of what she's describing. So in my opinion, I think you should stick to your values and say, no, I'm not going, because this entire situation sounds incredibly crappy. My entitled toxic coworker demands that I allow her to move into my apartment after she gets kicked out of her own apartment for having a fallout with her roommates. But after I tell her no and that I don't want to do that, she then goes back to my coworkers and claims that I let her be homeless, spreading a horrible rumor about me and literally tried to tarnish my entire reputation, leaving me in a situation where right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live alone in a small 2-bedroom house where one room is mine and the other one is basically my everything room. It's my office, my closet, my storage. Sometimes I just lay on the floor in there and stare at the ceiling when life sucks, stuff like that. But most importantly, it is not a guest room. I've lived with horrible roommates before, so I worked really hard to be able to afford my own place, and I love having my own space. It's literally my safe little bubble. Anyways, one of my coworkers got into a huge fight with her roommates, and they kicked her out. She was venting at work, and I felt bad, and I was like, well, that really sucks. $50. Oh my god. And even sent her a few places to look at. And I'm sure you can understand that I was just trying to be helpful without inviting chaos into my life. Later that night, she sent me a text message saying, "Hey, I was thinking maybe if I could crash with you for a few weeks. Since you live alone and you have the space, would that be okay?" When she sent this, I literally got the sinking feeling in my chest. No, I am not even close to her. We are cool at work, but we've never even hung out outside of lunch breaks, or even just us complaining about our boss. She doesn't know anything about me, and I don't know her like that. Why would she live in my house? So I replied super politely. I said to her, "I totally get that you're going through it, but I really value my space, and I'm just not in a place where I can have someone else stay with me." And trust me, I was like really nice. I didn't ghost her, I didn't ignore her, I just said no. The next day, she starts acting really weird. Then another coworker tells me that she said I let her be homeless when I have an entire room to myself. And it's like, my god, what is going on right now? First of all, she's staying at her boyfriend's place. Secondly, I pay to live alone. That's the whole point. I don't want to feel tense or uncomfortable in my own space. I don't want to tiptoe around a person I barely know. And I definitely don't want to deal with just a few weeks, turning into 2 months of her saying, "Well, I'm looking for a new place, but nothing's coming through yet." Now, as a result of this, people at work are acting like I'm the bad guy. And it's like, well, sorry for not letting a coworker move into my apartment, all because she had a bad fight. I honestly don't know what to do because I do feel bad, but also I don't, because this entire situation is not my problem. So seriously, am I the jerk for not letting this happen and not letting this lady move into my home? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, you are not the jerk for not wanting this in your life, because seriously, who would want this? If this was a close friend or a family member and they had some weird falling out and they had to move out all of a sudden, then yeah, absolutely, I would be more than willing to let anybody in and be like, "Hey, you can crash here and we can figure it out." Because you know what? I would have some kind of like rapport with them and be like, yes, I trust them and I know they're not going to take advantage of me. But this is one of those coworkers that you just don't know that well and you literally only see them at work. Like the second you leave and you clock out, they cease to exist. You just don't interact with them. So for this lady to be like, "Oh, please let me move in," and then basically in the same sentence spread rumors that you're trying to let her become homeless, like that is crazy toxic and just completely out of left field. But thankfully, there's a little bit of details here that I haven't like completely shared yet, because the original poster actually gave us an update to this situation and it is crazy. Apparently, this coworker is now in jail. The original poster went on to say that they don't know what happened and that they feel horrible to say this, but they laughed. And you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would be laughing as well. Seriously, this lady tried to ruin your reputation all because you didn't want to give up a space in your house that literally is yours. And you know what? It's always selfish people like this coworker who try to step in and be like, "Well, you don't need all that extra space. I could easily occupy it instead." And it's like, dude, yeah, you probably could occupy that space, but guess what? I don't want you living there. Please leave me alone. It is so idiotic. It honestly just isn't fair for you or anybody else, because you're under no obligation to take care of someone, especially if they're going to end up in jail. Like, who knows what she could have done to your property while you weren't there? She could have robbed you blind. She could have destroyed stuff. She could have stayed put and refused to leave at all. Like, that would have been a nightmare, and honestly, I don't blame you for saying no. So hopefully your reputation gets repaired as a result of all of this, and people begin to realize that you are not the problem here, because this lady is now in jail, as there's obviously another side to the story that clearly none of us know about. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Two entitled male Karens back to back walk into CVS and humiliate themselves in the worst way possible, leaving me and the manager laughing our butts off at how stupid these two guys truly were. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I don't work for CVS, but I've been sitting at an informational booth every week this month, and today I got to witness two entitled male Karens complain to staff literally within 5 minutes of each other. The first guy came in here demanding to speak to a manager because there was a delivery driver parked out front making a pharmacy delivery. There is no loading dock anywhere, so the front door is the loading zone. He was demanding the manager to call the police because of about 3 parking violations. When the manager said he would be long gone before the police ever got here, he got upset and demanded her name and likely wants to call corporate to complain further. He even went out of his way to track down the driver and berate him, to which the driver responded, "Would you be saying this to the Brink truck driver that also does the same thing?" Well, that shut him up and he grumbled something as he walked away. Then, literally less than 5 minutes after that, another male Karen comes in wanting to make a return. He did not have a receipt, so the worker tells him due to their policy, they can't make the return. Well, he then starts to raise his voice and he is complaining about how CVS is literally stealing $3 from me. They continue to go back and forth, and eventually the male male Karen gets his way from the same poor manager who was also just berated by the parking police, and the situation is seemingly over. He then returns not a minute later to complain further that he only got charged back $2.49 when originally it was $1 more, a chargeback they had never had to give him due to him not having a receipt. He continues to make a scene for a few more minutes and ends it by saying, "That's why CVS is a ghost town. You have the worst customer service." And then he just storms out of the building. Now, I'm currently laughing about it with the manager, wondering how these entitled idiot male Karens can be so miserable with their own lives that they have to ruin everybody else's day. It makes me grateful that I no longer work retail and makes me respect even more anyone who has to deal with people like this on the regular. So truly, good luck to all the retail workers who deal with these types of entitled individuals. Oh man, I love this story for so many reasons, but mostly it's just the fact that these guys literally came in like 5 minutes after each other. First of all, I think anyone who's worked customer service has run into this garbage before, where it makes you wonder if there's some kind of like full moon going on and you're like, wait a second, what's happening? Because seriously, this is so annoying. The first guy's complaining about a delivery driver, and the next guy's complaining about $1. Like, this guy already got his way, he got his stupid refund, and now he's trying to be like, you owe me $1, please. So yeah, I completely agree with the original poster, because people like this truly have nothing better to do with their lives than to walk into CVS like an idiot and make a complete fool out of themselves. An entitled rude business owner refused to properly get rid of the hazardous waste he left behind in his facility, forcing me to get revenge on this guy by quite literally forcing him to get his stuff or else he would have all of it towed. Here's what happened. So about 30 years ago, I worked as a property manager at a commercial industrial building. There was a gentleman who operated a machine shop from one of the warehouses in the back, and he occupied the space for decades before I got involved. And as far as I knew, he was respectful, friendly, and always paid the rent on time. But the real trouble began when he decided to retire and close the business. It took several days to move, but when it seemed to be vacant, I entered the space to assess the condition of the unit. And initially, what was left was pretty typical. A desk filled with miscellaneous office supplies, a couple of broken chairs, and maybe some trash here and there. But the real problem was in the corner, where there was a large steel drum of used compressed oil. The barrel could hold about 55 gallons, but it was half full. Nevertheless, this type of material has to be disposed of in a proper manner, and there are services that collect used oil, but at a significant cost. Now, at this time, he still had a company van parked outside with a flat tire. So I thought, well, surely he'll be back to get it soon along with a barrel of oil, right? Well, after a week passing, I decided to give him a call. He gave some excuses, but said he would take care of it soon, but of course, nothing happened. A couple more weeks go by and a couple more phone calls until finally he snapped. He told me to get lost and then hung up. So it was then after he told me to get lost and he swore at me that I decided to get really petty. I had noticed that his van had been left unlocked and was virtually empty, so I got a colleague to help out, and together we managed to get the barrel into the van. We then threw the desk, the broken chairs, and the trash in there as well. I then called a friend of mine who is a cop to give the gentleman a courtesy call, informing him that he had 48 hours to move his van or it would be towed. Well, the very next day he was there with a tow truck that he hired to collect the van. Now, I didn't speak to him, but some other tenants who knew him told me that he was very upset. They suggested my solution was extreme and unwarranted, but I maintained that I was very patient with him until he crossed the line and disrespected me. Oh wow, that really is unfortunate because that guy 100% used you. He didn't get that crap because not only was he not gonna get it, but also he had every intention of keeping there as long as possible. And that is seriously not fair for you, especially the barrel of oil. Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so weird. So good for you for getting this guy to get his crap off of your property, because the way he was acting was incredibly inappropriate. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my girlfriend $8, as that $8 was literally all I had left? Because after I said no, this caused a huge argument between us, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this morning I was driving my girlfriend back to her apartment all before I headed over to work. Lately, both of us have been going through a rough patch financially, but it's been hitting me especially hard this month. I even cut up all my credit cards to avoid falling back on them when money runs out. Just the other day, we were joking about how we're both in the negatives in our checking accounts. Last night, her dad kindly gave her $70 and we went grocery shopping together. While she was paying, I pulled out my wallet to see if I could pitch in, and I had $8 in cash. But before I could hand it over, she had already swiped her card. I mentioned that I was going to help, and she just said to me, "We'll worry about that later." Well, fast forward to this morning, and she brought it up again and asked for the $8. Well, that's when it finally hit me. Since I cut up my cards, that $8 is literally all I have until payday at the end of the month. That's my grocery money, my gas money, literally everything. So I told her a bit sheepishly that that's all I've got, thinking that that would be enough to pause the conversation. But she pushed back saying, "Well, you were going to give it to me last night. I don't understand." understand. And when I heard that, that kind of shocked me. I've helped her a lot recently. $450 towards rent, $100 towards gas, and $190 to help her file her taxes. So hearing her push so hard for the $8 felt completely off. It rubbed me the wrong way, and you know what? I snapped. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it turned into this big argument. I tried to suggest tabling the conversation until after work, since we only had 5 minutes left in the drive, and I knew we were just getting more heated, but she insisted that we keep talking. Well, sure enough, things escalated. I dropped her off, and in frustration, I said something along the lines of, "Go ahead, go into your apartment and take your nap. I'll go to work and make the money," all right before she slammed the door. And I know I shouldn't have said that, but I was just being a jerk in that moment. She later texted me saying I'm taking my stress out on her, interrupting her when she's trying to talk, and that I haven't apologized. And honestly, I do feel like I owe her an apology for the rude things I said and how I said them, but at the same time, I don't think my core feelings are wrong. It really seemed like she felt entitled to that $8, and it really felt like she wasn't seeing that. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this situation is really weird in my opinion, because man, you've got to figure something out in your life if $8 is all you have left for the entire month. Like for starters, if you're paying for all that stuff in her life and not doing anything to protect yourself, then seriously, you need to figure some things out. And the original poster goes on to explain some of their financial situation, and from the sounds of it, it just seems like there's a lot of money going out of their account. So in my opinion, I don't blame you for getting upset about the $8, but I think your girlfriend being mad at you is like the least of your worries. It really seems like you're in a dire financial situation, and in my opinion, I think you need to figure that out before anything else. My ex was a terrible person, as he literally treated me like garbage every day of our relationship, so I decided to get some petty revenge by cashing in on a vacation that he had previously paid for. Here's what happened. My ex and I booked a holiday during COVID that ended up being canceled due to border closures and whatnot. We applied for a refund but never saw a cent of it due to long processing times. When we split, there was some money owing between us, so I guesstimated how much we would get back for the flights, and then I called the day even. I gave him the white goods we bought together for free, as I just wanted a clean break. The math I did was a rough estimate, but he came out with more in the end. Flash forward many years later, and I get a text from the company saying the refund would be processed. I was confused at first and realized it was for the flight that we booked during COVID. The refund would be a gift card, but it was sent to my ex's email as he finalized the booking. Well, I called the company explaining that my partner and I no longer use that email and to send the gift card to another email. After a few clarifying details, they did so. The gift card was also for the full amount, with no taxes and fees taken off as we were originally informed. Another email was sent saying I could alternatively ask for a refund back to my account. However, given it was under my ex's name, I knew that wasn't possible. Now, I was worried that they just resent the gift card and not generated a new code, therefore making the gift card in his email still active. Now, I'm pretty sure my ex still uses that email and would have seen the gift card, but knowing how much he loves to sit on his butt to do anything, I decided to start looking at a holiday. After 30 minutes, I booked a holiday somewhere sunny with flights and accommodations covered for a long weekend away. And in this situation, patience is the best weapon and silence is the best revenge. Now, for context, my ex is a massive piece of garbage. He counted every cent between us. Hence, I didn't want to argue with what money was to be divided at the end, and I gave him out white goods for free. He was derogatory in how he spoke to me and overall just a terrible person, meaning that this holiday really is compensation for the way that he treated me. Oh man, I love stories like this because it sounds like the ex absolutely deserved this. They mistreated you your entire relationship, and now after a few years, you finally get a chance to get back at him. So good for you for getting this vacation, because I guarantee you if you waited in some kind of way, he would have seen that gift card and probably pounced on that right away. But snagging it early really is the best revenge you could have possibly gotten. My boyfriend's ex-wife doesn't want me around his kids, and despite the fact that they've already been introduced to me, she's now demanding that I don't be anywhere near them until further notice. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend of over a year is trying to respect his ex-wife's wishes and not allowing me around his kids. For context, they were married for 2 years and have been divorced for a year and a half. When we first started dating, he told me that they had a rule that it has to be a year of dating before introducing someone to the kids. When we first started dating, it got serious pretty fast. He actually moved into my apartment building in an apartment below me, and he didn't tell her that I lived in the same apartment building, but a few months ago, she found out. He has his boys 2 weekends a month at his place overnight, and I have run into them a few times, and he has told them that I'm his girlfriend. They were very curious about me and would ask about me whenever they were over at his place. Every time he would ask his ex-wife if me and the kids could officially meet, she would say no. So I proposed the idea of me and her having a meetup so she feels more comfortable, but she she said no to that too. So a few weeks ago, I pressed a little bit about it, and he finally bit the bullet and introduced them to me without telling her. And when we did that, they were very happy and we hit it off. His ex found out about it from the kids and was extremely angry. She said until further notice, I couldn't be around the kids even though I've already met them and live in the same apartment building. There is no reason she doesn't want me specifically around the kids, as I am a stable adult, I don't do any substances, and I don't drink. He told me she's uncomfortable with another woman coming into their lives in general, especially someone introduced as the girlfriend. So I'm honestly not sure how to proceed. I don't have an ex-husband or kids, so this is all new to me. I'm glad he waited a year to introduce us, because I feel that is a sufficient amount of time. Should I take a step back from asking him to see the kids again? He wants to respect her wishes, but I think it has to do with her comfort level and not the kids' comfort level, as they have asked to see me and hang out with me multiple times. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I think it really was wrong to try and push for this, because seriously, that's not okay. This, in my opinion, really oversteps some serious boundaries that you just didn't really care about. And yeah, I totally agree. The circumstances suck because guess what? He lives in the same apartment building. So naturally, it would be hard to avoid being around them, but also because you pushed it, you've now made an enemy of this ex-wife. And I just don't think that's the best first impression going into this. So yeah, I hope this all works out, but also I think you need to realize that this was a big miscalculation on your part, because now it's going to take even longer for this ex-wife to even begin to warm up to you. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wearing a suit instead of a dress at a relative's wedding? Because now they're still pissed off at me and said that I ruined their wedding. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I went to a relative's wedding, which was in and of itself already old-fashioned. The men and women were wearing simple suits and dresses. The bride wears an overly large white dress, and the husband wears a fancy black suit. Due to the fact that I am more of modern culture, I chose a suit over a dress. Nothing much, just a black suit with a tie. My husband and mother both say that since I don't have an important role in the wedding, I should be able to wear what I want as long as it fits the theme and the occasion. Now, of course, I sent the bride the picture of the suit, and she replied with a thumbs up emoji, which I took as confirmation. So, skip to the day of the wedding. Me, my mother, my husband show up and everything goes smoothly. The bride and groom are laughing and the guests are enjoying themselves. Well, that is until the bride pulls me away from the other guests and she literally starts yelling at me. She says to me, "Stop ruining my day and being the center of attention." Now, for the record, I am not someone who enjoys attention. I'm also not someone who takes kindly to yelling and accusations before reasoning. Usually, I would wait until they're done and then argue back, but since this was her special day, I just decided not to. I then asked her in a calm manner if she had a dress for me to wear then. She then started telling me to buy something right then and there, but I said no because it was very inconvenient for me to leave and try to change into something else. We continue to argue and I start to lose my cool. I know when I get mad, I can get out of my right mind and say something I shouldn't, so I tell her I think I better leave before I snap and ruin the day. I ended up leaving the wedding, and to this day, we still don't get along, but I don't regret a single thing. I think I didn't do anything wrong, as she told me that it was okay to wear that, but denied it last minute. I know it might be a jerk move, but when her husband cheated on her, I did not feel bad at all. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like seriously, the bride approved it. They gave a thumbs up emoji and said, "Oh yeah, this is totally fine." If they didn't like it, they would have been like, "Oh, are you wearing that to my wedding?" And maybe told you in like a roundabout way that they don't want you wearing that. But if they actually had a problem with that, then they probably should have said something at the moment you sent it to them. And I'm sure you explained yourself in the text message that you sent them. I'm positive that you sent the suit picture and said, "Hey, can I wear this?" And then assumed that yeah, because they gave you a thumbs up, that means they're okay with it. Which, by the way, anyone would think that. That bride's an idiot for being like, "Oh yeah, the attention's getting taken away from me. I hate you so much. How dare you do this to me?" It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Seriously, this is crazy. If you didn't want me to wear it, then guess what? Maybe tell me that before I buy the suit instead of doing it on the day of your wedding. Not to mention her delusional request to be like, "Oh, go buy something else right now and put that on." It's like, do you hear yourself? Because that's not gonna happen. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady's a complete idiot for letting this happen and then trying to act like this is some kind of big travesty, because this is not fair for you in the slightest. A group of idiots decided to ding-dong ditch my house one too many times, as they literally banged on my door as hard as they can just to prank me and my family. But after they kicked my door open, they were met with the biggest dog I'm sure they've ever seen in their lives, as they literally ran as fast as they could while my dog chased them down the street. And I'm honestly still laughing about this to this day, because those idiots absolutely deserved it. Here's what happened. Okay, so I wasn't really sure whether to post this or not, but I've been wanting to tell people about it, so here we go. My partner and I live in the smallest cul-de-sac probably in the world. You can walk the entire community vicinity in probably 5 minutes, and you would think that this would foster a close neighborhood, but everybody just mostly keeps to themselves. The only reason I mention this is to say that we have no idea who would do this. Now for reference, we rent, and since we've been in this neighborhood for about 4 years now without any incident, we never got around to getting a Ring camera or anything like that, which will be changing after this incident. We just have an old-fashioned doorbell and a kind of crappy latch on the front door. Well, a few weeks ago, we got ding-dong ditched. It's never happened before and it was kind of funny, so we just went along with our day and nothing else happened for a few more weeks. And you know what? This probably encouraged them to do it again. But this time, they decided to pound the front door instead of ringing the doorbell. Now, I have a habit of leaving the front door unlocked when I'm waiting on a delivery, and this was one of those days. It happened really fast, but this was what I put together. The first knock did nothing but alert our dog, a 55-pound half-breed, that someone was at the door. So naturally, she ran downstairs to bark at the door. The second knock must have pushed the door off the latch, but not completely all the way. And remember, I said it's a crappy latch. Well, the third knock was their final mistake. We could only hear it from upstairs. The bang of the door smacking against the wall, the scrambling footsteps, and the dog chasing them out the door. We ran downstairs and thankfully our dog isn't the kind to run away. She ran the intruders off the property, then stood guard at the open front door, as it was still swinging from its hard impact against the wall. In our lawn was an abandoned but full bag of puffy Cheetos, and on the sidewalk in front of our house was an Arizona tea that was either dropped or thrown, but was essentially left abandoned to spill its mostly full contents into the gutter. So it was obvious that all of this was abandoned in The Great Escape, and it was so freaking funny. It was sitcom level stuff. So I decided to leave it there in case they decided to come back for them. Well, they were both gone by the next morning. The best part is I cannot tell if it was a bunch of stupid kids or a bunch of stupid young adults, but I seriously don't think they'll be coming back anytime soon, especially if they don't want to deal with my dog in the process. Oh man, that is amazing. I love this story so much because this went way beyond what would be like a normal prank or some kind of like harmless fun, and instead ventured into something that was quite malicious if you ask me. Like seriously, think about it. These idiots were banging on your front door, and when I think of like banging on the door, I think of them like pounding or even kicking the door to like get your attention. And I don't know about you, but unless my house is on fire or like the police are there, you better not be knocking on my door like that, especially when there is literally a doorbell right there. So the fact that your 55-pound dog literally got out and started chasing them down the sidewalk, like that is hilarious and so deserved. Because based on what they left behind, I guarantee you it was just a bunch of stupid kids running around the neighborhood, doing stuff they definitely shouldn't be doing, thus making the result of this entirely earned. Like you seriously can't start knocking on someone's door, literally kick the door open, and not expect some big dog or some consequence waiting on the other side. Like you know for a fact they heard that dog barking, because at that point, if they were smart enough, they would have been like, hey, that dog sounds really big, let's get out of here. So good for you for putting these people in their place, whoever they were, because the way they treated your property and your door was incredibly disrespectful. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband's brother has been living with us for over a year and has in that year refused to take care of himself or do anything to change his life, leaving me in a situation where I had to speak up and tell my husband that his brother absolutely has to go. Here's what happened. So my husband and myself moved into our first home together last February. Shortly after my daughter's first birthday in April of last year, my husband's older brother moved into our home with us. I am not extremely close with my husband's family, but I've gotten along with him fairly okay whenever we're around each other. Last year, I got a sob story about how his older brother fell on hard times, and he just really wanted to get his life back on track so that he could get joint custody of his son. His son lives in DFW with his child's mother, and seeing as the brother was technically homeless, I suggested that instead of moving to Alabama with his mother, he could stay with us in Houston because it is closer to his son. And you know what? I ultimately regretted this act of kindness, but the parent in me wanted him to be closer to his son. In this year of living with us, I can count on one hand how many times he has gone to see his son, who lives like 3 hours away from us. Well, fast forward to now a year later, and he is somehow worse off than he was when he first came. He had a car which is now broken down in our garage. He had a job while living with us, but it was only for a few months, all before he was let go and never sought employment again. He claims that he has been using his time to study for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery just so he can get into the military. And this is not totally a lie because I've seen him studying often. However, he's also been spending just as much time on his game system. Now, I myself am in the military, and I used to work with recruiters to tutor people for this very program. In my 9 years of service, I've never known anyone who needed to study for this program for over a year. He has taken the test multiple times, but he isn't getting scores high enough for the job that he wants. My husband was in the military as well, so it rubs me the wrong way that he hasn't been upfront with his own brother and suggesting another career path because I truly don't believe he is suitable for the military at all. He has not paid a single bill while living with us. There was one time where he sent my husband maybe $200, but considering all of the money my husband has given him while staying with us, I'd consider that a loan repayment. The most he has done is maybe buy a loaf of bread or fruit or condiments here and there, and after harping down on my husband and his brother for months about cleaning, he may clean the kitchen more often than he used to. My husband and I split everything, so he pays rent and car stuff, and I pay utilities and for the groceries. The rent, the car note, and insurance is always the same each month. However, utilities and groceries fluctuate based on usage each month, which means that I'm the only one taking on the financial burden of having another grown man living in the house who is there all day, every day. The most he has contributed to the house is maybe cleaning the kitchen from time to time or watching our daughter for maybe 30 to 40 minutes when my husband takes me to work, which is literally 1 to 2 times a week, and most times our daughter will just tag along for the car ride. So it really begs the question, am I overreacting for telling my husband that I'm ready for his brother to leave? The straw that broke the camel's back was coming back from a trip to visit my family. His brother, again unemployed without a single responsibility in the world, had one job and one job only. He was to come and pick us up from the airport. My husband left him his car keys so he would have transportation while we were gone, and so we could save on money by not having to get an Uber home. We live roughly 20 minutes away depending on traffic, so I told him to text his brother once we landed so he could leave the house to come and get us. Well, we get outside and his brother isn't there. We are waiting and waiting, but still he's not there. Eventually, my husband gets a text saying that he had to loop around the airport, which I'm honestly not sure why because I've told him time and time again, if he gets there early, just wait in the cell lot. So we wait more. Then my husband gets a text message saying nothing but the number 4, which we assume means that he's parked in lane 4. But no, that means he's 4 minutes away. And it's like, okay, fine, we can wait a little bit longer. But then they get on the phone and my husband tells me that my brother got lost. Not only has he been to the airport multiple times before, but he also has maps and CarPlay, so there is no reason he should be getting lost. I was frustrated, tired from a long day of traveling, and I was even more upset because my daughter was dressed for Seattle weather and not Houston weather. She had on a long sleeve sweatshirt and pants, so I knew she was hot because I was hot. I told him to tell his brother to find his way home and that we'll just get an Uber. Now, I typically bite my tongue when it comes to this family arrangement, especially since I originally co-signed it, but in the moment, I blurted out that I'm ready for his brother to leave and that if he has an issue with it, he can just leave with him. So truly, am I overreacting? And I really need you to be honest. My husband seems upset with me, but I truly feel like he has no reason at all to be upset with me. I'm the one who has been taking care of a grown man-child for a year now, and I'm honestly at my breaking point because I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I don't think you're the jerk, but I think this probably should have come up way sooner than the way you handled it. For you to be like, oh yeah, if you don't like it, you can leave with him. That seems a little bit overboard and definitely uncalled for. But overall, don't get me wrong, you are completely right. This guy's been mooching off of you and your husband for over a year. Think about it, this guy lost his job, he doesn't have a car, he doesn't pay for rent or groceries or the utilities. Like seriously, what's going on right now? That is not okay, and I would be pissed if I was in your shoes. So the fact that he is literally not doing anything to try and take care of himself or anybody else in the house, like that is obnoxious and I would hate that. So for me, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely ask him to leave. I would straight up tell him that his time is up and that he needs to go. There's no excuse, he has to get his life together, and unfortunately, that's gotta be somewhere else. Because you've literally taken care of him for over a year, and he has not done anything to improve his life in the slightest. And that, unfortunately, is not your problem. My toxic coworker makes my female coworker cry, all because of something that was incredibly petty. So I decided to get some revenge by using my IT powers for evil and making his life a living nightmare, forcing him to apologize to my coworker, or else the problems that he's experiencing with his network would literally never stop. Here's what happened. Okay, so where I used to work, there was a guy who everybody knew was an absolute jerk to the highest degree. Always demanded that his stuff be done first, and if you needed anything from him, he was suddenly unreachable. Now, by trade, I am a telephone engineer. I was in my cube one day working, and this guy came over and just gave my coworker the business with both barrels, berating her up and down for some petty BS to do with his cell phone, literally leaving her in tears. So if you know anything about private phone systems, there is a message waiting indicator light, and in order for the phone system to turn on and off, it simply silently has the phone dial a specific number. For months, I would randomly turn on his message waiting indicator, and then I would wait until he would put it in a help desk ticket. So the indicator light would be lit even though there was no message. And then I would literally blow him off until he would run up the flagpole complaining. Then I would wait until he wasn't around around and just walk over to his phone and dial the number needed so that the light would go off. And I must have done this 8 or 10 times before he finally figured it out. Besides that, me and my other buddy would just randomly go in and kick him off the Wi-Fi. I mean, we were literally just messing with him all the time. He came up to me one day and said, "I know you're doing that on purpose. Would you please stop it?" So I replied by saying, "I have a distinct feeling that if you apologize to my coworker, all that crap might just stop overnight. Otherwise, who knows what can happen?" Well, he apologized and the fun finally stopped. So the moral of that story is that you don't want to mess with anyone in IT because we can easily make your work life a living nightmare. Okay, I love what the original poster did because this guy made one of his coworkers cry. Seriously, whatever was going on with this guy's stupid stuff was no reason for him to go over to this coworker and start making her cry. I don't care what's happening. You don't scream at someone until they're in tears and then storm off like you have any right to be doing that. So truly, I think what you did to him was like the bare minimum of what he deserved because that guy was a total jerk. My entitled aunt blames my dogs for her dog's death. She also yells at my mom and has a long history of being such an awful person. And now I'm wondering if I'm truly at fault because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, we live in a rental with a shared yard. My aunt lives in the front house and I live in the back. We're surrounded by forests near a main road and there's no fence yet as we are building one currently. I have 2 dogs and one's a hunter and the other one is her pup. They're trained, they stick to the trees, and they never go near the road. Well, my aunt has 2 little dogs, maybe 2 Pomeranians. When the road was closed, they used to cross the neighbors, who has about 5 small dogs. One day, her pup crossed and got hit by a car while returning. She started crying and blamed my dogs, but both were right beside me the entire time. Now, one of my dogs is in heat, and we usually give her vet-approved birth control every 6 months, but it didn't arrive this time. So we've been keeping her inside except for walks. She did slip out once and I chased after her, and at the same time, my aunt's senior blind dog with no teeth came barking at us in the road, and I was trying to manage both situations. Well, today she came screaming at my mom, kicked a stray, and said my dog caused her puppy's death. But I've never brought up the fact that her dog took out 3 of my kittens, bit 2 of them, and gave one of them a heart attack. That same dog used to growl at my pit bull collie mix, who, by the way, was tied up, and he once scratched the dog after being constantly provoked. Her husband even shot a tree where my dog was tied up and said that he would take him out. So I've moved my dog closer to our back door, and I keep him inside at night, but I'm scared now, and I worry that he'll hurt my cats or my dogs when I'm not around. She even brought up a loan my mom gave her when we were sick, which was about $1,000, and blamed us for her being in debt. But she's in debt because she got a loan from her awful husband to buy a car, and not because of us. She abandoned her kids at 9 to move here. Her son tried going to university, but she pulled him out, and now he helps with bills while she still supports that man. Her daughter once told me that she wishes my mom was her mom, someone who has always put her kids first no matter what. I've kept quiet for years, but yelling at my mom and blaming my dogs, honestly, that crossed a line. And it makes me wonder if she's just entitled or if it's something worse. Now, while some might view us as irresponsible pet owners, all of our cats are healthy and spayed. We have 5 and they stay in our yard, often lounging in the trees. Our 2 small pups are only outside when we are, and they're leash free during walks. As for our pit bull collie mix, he can't be off the leash in public due to breed stereotypes, even though he is a gentle soul. And yes, he goes on late night walks with us since there are less people out, and we avoid the whole chaos of people telling us that we should have a muzzle or cross the street as soon as they see him. It's not ideal, but we love him, and adopting him saved his life when he was about to be put down at the age of 1. We leave food and water outside for any strays that might need it, as they are common in our area. And the kittens that were taken out came from a pregnant stray that we decided to foster. We've scheduled her, our female dog, to be spayed in June when my sister is on summer break. But now I'm working, and we're installing a fence so that they can roam safely and free, and hopefully away from my entitled family. Oh yeah, this sounds really awful. The fact that your aunt is trying to blame you for all these things that seemingly are not your fault, in my opinion, is just completely weird. But truly, I think it's a really good idea that you're putting a fence in, because it sounds like that will solve a lot of problems going on around your property, especially when it comes to your family. Because with a fence, you can keep her off of your property, and you can keep your dogs on your property, essentially making it so your family can no longer be blamed for stuff that's going wrong in her life. My girlfriend cheated on me after we went through a traumatic event 3 months prior, and now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my girlfriend have been together for about 3 years and 6 months. It hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for sure, but we've managed to come through this far. I've had to put up with a lot of aggression from her and mental breakdowns. I was always there for her, even if I didn't have the energy at all, and for reference, I work pretty long hours, and my job is mentally and physically demanding. In late December 2024, she unexpectedly gave birth one night night, it was a stillborn and it really traumatized us both. She had been complaining for a few months about pains in her stomach, and she even went to a doctor twice, and they did not pick up that she was pregnant. I wish I could have done more to prevent what happened, but I thought, seeing as she went to a doctor twice, and the doctor told her that she most likely had digestive issues, that every step that could have been taken was taken. I was quite shut off for a while, and I would say that I did not handle the situation in the best way. I was always there for her, comforting her and telling her that it's not her fault or mine, and that it will get easier with time, but I was a little bit closed off to talking in detail about what happened that night. In my mind, I needed some time to process this, and she was not very understanding. She wanted to talk about baby names, and spoke about it as if we had a child with us almost, and I just needed some time to wrap my head around how I actually felt. Fast forward a month and a half, and I purchased my first house. It was a big step for me. I've been dreaming about it for years, and she was just as excited to move. We looked together at homes, and she was more than happy to move to the area we live in now. She was definitely still mourning the loss, but I would say that she was coping much better. In the month of March, I had to go away for a month for work in another city, and I kept in good contact with her and reassured her every step of the way that I am becoming more of myself, and I'm ready to talk in depth about the baby without literally losing my mind. I was a depressed mess for 2 months, and it just started to get better. So I got back home on the 1st of April, and thankfully my father had help with moving the furniture while I was away, and the day that I got back, we moved into my first home. Well, I've got to say, I got a very funny feeling that she cheated on me while I was away. It felt very wrong, but I went on her phone that night, and I discovered that she has cheated on me with a past partner. She even told me that night while she was lying in our bed that she still loves me. She told him on their messages that she's seriously considering breaking up with me, and that she would probably do it towards the end of the year. I mean, they seemed like they were a couple basically, after chatting for 2 weeks on the phone and then hooking up 2 nights before I returned home. After confronting her about it, she straight up denied it at first, but then she saw that there was no point in denying it. She said that she was lonely and hurt because of the baby situation, and that she needed some comfort. She profusely apologized, and I could see that she regretted it, but I am not 100% convinced that she has not planned on breaking up with me. Keep in mind, while I'm working 14 to 18-hour shifts every day in a city that I'm not used to, and securing funds for our new chapter, she's been doing all of this behind my back. And also, I most likely will support us financially. She has an okay job, but has a lot of debt that she is paying off that she made back in college. Ever since the whole cheating ordeal, we have spoken a lot about it, and she is reassuring me that I'm the only guy that she wants, and that she didn't mean any of the stuff that she said to him. She wants to be with me forever. But you know what? I have lost all my trust in her. For almost 4 years, I have broken my back for this woman, feeding her every day, comforting her, helping her out financially every single month, and giving her loads of love and attention. I thought that we had a super solid respect and trust for each other. But you know what? I think I may be wrong. I am extremely hurt over it, and I'm definitely not coping well, but I am trying to remain as calm as I can for her best interest. Fast forward, and she got checked into a mental health clinic today for 11 days because she is not coping with the loss of the baby, and she feels extremely awful about herself for cheating on me. I know she feels bad and regrets it massively, but how would I know for sure that this will not happen again in the future? She was always the insecure one, telling me over and over that I must never cheat on her, and that I should rather just call her up and break up with her rather than hook up with another woman. So she literally broke her own biggest rule. Cheating was a serious taboo for her, and she said that she doesn't see us still dating if I had to ever cheat on her. So here's my question. Do I bite the bullet and give her another chance, or do I move on with my life and break her heart in favor of my own self-respect and future happiness? Because right now I am truly heartbroken, and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, this is such a heavy one, like seriously. First of all, I'm so sorry for the loss of your child. Even though it wasn't expected or planned, that kind of situation has got to be so difficult, and honestly, I'm so sorry that you two went through that. So on that end, I can understand why you shut off and you said, listen, I need time to process this, which is something I think any reasonable person would request, because this really is a heavy topic. But in that same vein of thought, I do not think it's appropriate in the slightest the way she betrayed your trust by literally cheating on you. There's no good excuse for that in my opinion. Seriously, there's absolutely not. I understand that she was lonely and she needed care, but she easily could have gone to you or gone to like therapy of some kind to get that help. The last person she should have gone to was some other ex-boyfriend and hook up with them instead of talking to you. And on that note, I think it's completely irrational to try and blame this on yourself in any way, shape, or form. Just because you were closed off and didn't really talk, and maybe you were like short every now and then, doesn't justify her cheating on you. Like, oh my god, you guys literally just bought a house together, and she is seriously gonna turn around and betray your trust like that? Like, oh my god. So truly, I hope this works out in some kind of way where everybody gets to be be the most happy, whether that means staying with her and trying to figure this out, or moving on and finding a better life. My psycho mother smashes my Nintendo Switch, all because of my spoiled, crazy older brother, who literally manipulated the entire situation to make it seem like our argument was my fault. And now I feel so distressed that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm really upset right now because I'm not in the position to buy a new Nintendo Switch, and this crazy lady wasn't even the one who bought the Switch. I can't even go asking her to pay for a repair or a new Switch because she's insane. Like, she's genuinely crazy, and I still just go crawling back to her. First, she smashed up my phone a few years ago, broke the PS4 a year ago, and now my only thing left was the Nintendo Switch that she smashed up. And guess what? Every single time she did it was because of her eldest son, who, keep in mind, is a grown man. He is 22 years old as of now, but every single time he caused an incident, he was above the age of 19. So I guess he's equally as entitled as his narcissistic mother. He's equally as narcissistic and manipulative. I mean, my God, I hate them both so much. The only reason I go crawling back to my evil mother is because I'm financially dependent on her until I finish school. I have my A-levels around the corner, which is something we do in my country towards the end of high school, so I've paused with a job search for now. My brother caused this entire incident as I was playing with my little brother, and his entitled self kept pestering us to play. We were in the middle of doing something, and we wanted to continue all night to gain experience, but we made a compromise to him. We told him to come back in an hour and then we'll play Switch Sports with him. Well, this grown man baby decided to start touching the controller as I had left it because it was an AFK map on Fortnite. And then when I moved it away from his narcissistic self, he started getting really angry, as in he kept moving his hand towards the controller when I moved it, and then I told him to stop touching it, and he just kept swearing in God's name that he wasn't when clearly he was. So yeah, he kept doing that, and I seriously just lost my mind. I was yelling at him and I was telling him to leave the controller. I said that we made a compromise, so please, why can't you just stop? And so I went to my entitled mother to tell her entitled son to stop, and of course she was sucking up to him, telling me it's not her problem and he can do whatever he wants, and that maybe I should just let him play. And it's like, seriously, what's going on right now? So as I went to her, he started getting really angry, like shouting a lot. He was swearing and saying he wasn't touching it and all this other stuff, and he started getting really crazy towards me. And you know what? That's what set her off, because she can't bear to see her son in distress, and so she went crazy and she started attacking me and my younger brother, where she eventually got the Nintendo Switch cords and smashed it on the floor, yelling at us by saying that we're torturing her and her son. And I honestly can't stand these people, and at this point I don't know what to do. Oh man, this really is insane. Your mom literally flew off the handle all because you're like, hey, can you tell my brother to stop? Can you literally get this grown man off my back? Like, seriously, that's a normal request of a sibling. That is not unusual because this guy was being annoying, and now you're somehow being punished for something that you didn't even do. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, and hopefully one day soon you're able to move out and get away from these people, because literally they do not sound like good people in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A bunch of construction workers leave a wall of bricks on the sidewalk, which quite literally forced me and my dog to walk into the street just to avoid it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by leaving dog droppings right where the bricks were laid, hopefully sending a message that this is absolutely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, so I usually walk my dog through two different paths, one in the morning and one at night. When walking the morning path yesterday, passing by a small construction site, I was surprised by a wall of bricks occupying the whole sidewalk, and I thought to myself, wow, that's kind of a jerk move. Not even a traffic cone to make people safer when they had to stop on the street, but they were working, carrying the bricks into the site and loading more. So it was inconvenient, but I thought it was just a passing nuisance. Well, today's Friday and a holiday. I went the same route again, and guess what? Another wall of bricks. And when I looked around, nobody was working. They just left that stuff there. And once again, the dog and I had to navigate it. Getting back to the other side of the obstacle, the dog starts sniffing it. He then takes a crap right next to the bricks, and on autopilot, I start leaning to remove his mess, but I wait a minute right then and there. I think to myself, screw these guys. I'm sure they'll walk there and nobody else will, because they'll be dodging the blockade. So you know what? I just leave it. Tomorrow I'll be doing the same route again, and if it's still there, I'll encourage the dog to take another dump right there, and probably also take some photos. I'm new to the city, but if it's not too much work, I'll send it to the government. The neighborhood is pleasant, but I think the city has its priorities pretty messed up, so I have no clue if it'll make a difference. All the sidewalks are on completely different levels, and some are full of holes, and in fact, I sprained my ankle last week because of that. The standard paving material material they seem to love over here is very slippery when wet, and trust me, it always rains. Not to mention there's absolutely no bike lanes anywhere, but they somehow found the time to pass a law blocking non-castrated dogs from dog hotels. I mean, there's one right on my morning route, but of course I can't use it. So it really looks like the city was made to instill pettiness in me. So you know what? Your construction site is your problem, and it's not something I should have to deal with on my morning walk. Okay, I gotta say, I really love this kind of like petty revenge, because it's only apparent if you know what's going on. Like seriously, I completely agree with the original poster here. The public sidewalk is not where you should stack your bricks. It's blocking everybody and it's getting in the way. So I think that leaving some dog droppings is not that big of a deal, and if anything, it leaves a very solid message that these guys need to move their stuff because they are inconveniencing literally everybody. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-boyfriend sell the tickets that I got him for his birthday? Because right now he's saying that I'm the jerk for not complying with his demands, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, me and my ex-boyfriend, who we will call Brad, had been together for 4 years, and we recently broke up in March. Nothing crazy, it's just that he no longer wanted a relationship, and I am devastated, and I felt like it came out of nowhere, but I respect his decision. The only complication is that we still live together, as I know finding somewhere to live quickly in our city is extremely difficult and expensive. So for the time being, we are still living together until he can move out. Okay, now let's move on. Last fall, I bought Brad 2 tickets to his favorite DJ as a birthday present, and I figured he could bring a friend or someone, since I never intended to go as I don't like rave music. It's also important to note that the tickets were $400. His birthday was last week, and I debated giving him his gift or not, since we are no longer dating, but I figure I might as well since we both take birthdays seriously. He seemed unexcited when I gave him the gift, which crushed my feelings since it was pretty expensive for me. Then I saw on Facebook a few days later that he was selling 2 tickets to the show. Feeling crushed, I asked him why, and he said he actually already had tickets, so he was selling his so that he could use mine. And it's like, sure, I guess that made sense to me. Then the last 2 days he's been pestering me to send him the tickets on Ticketmaster. When I asked why, he said he might just sell all 4 for the money and not go to the concert at all. Apparently the show is sold out and they are worth a lot. But again, I was crushed since I spent all that money specifically as a gift so he could see his favorite DJ. He said it's his gift and that I'm being a jerk by taking the tickets back. Now, I don't think I'm being a jerk, but if he doesn't want them, I'd rather get my money back. But now he's saying he's gonna sell 3 of them to his friend and keep 1 ticket, which would make me feel better overall, as I feel weird about the whole thing, since I'm still emotional about the breakup and cannot think clearly. So am I being the jerk for not letting him sell the tickets since they were a present? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, what in the world is going on right now? First of all, you should have not given those tickets to him at all, because clearly this guy just doesn't care about you. He's pretending to, but trust me, I just don't think he really gives a crap. And the biggest proof is the way he's acting towards those tickets you gifted him. He's literally not even going to the show anymore, and he's only trying to sell those tickets so that he can get your money. Like for me, if I bought tickets for someone and they're like, never mind, send me the tickets, I'm gonna sell them, then personally I would lose my mind and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I would rather keep them and sell them myself since you don't give a crap about the tickets. And sure, it's his gift, but guess what? I feel it only really counts if he actually goes to the concert. The value is in going to the thing instead of trying to sell the tickets and be like, oh, I got some money. Because if that was the case, then you would have just given him $400 instead of $400 worth of tickets. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to give those over to him, but I do think you would be the jerk if you cave and give it to him anyways, because this guy broke up with you and he clearly does not care about you, and you deserve way better than this. Would I be the jerk if I brought up the fact that my mom stole all of my tuition money that my father gave to me for college? Because right now I'm starting to think that I'm not totally over that situation, or the fact that I had to keep a secret from my dad, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was preparing to go to university, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Through the years, my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only did that for the first one, and instead she spent the rest of it. And to be completely honest, I wasn't even surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back and asked that I never tell my dad. So for 4 years, I thanked them for the tuition money, all while I took out loans. For reasons to do with her narcissism, I have an arm's length relationship with her, but she would say that we're pretty close, as she assumes my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories is somehow a relationship. Now, we have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days of the year, and I've been going there with my girlfriend for about 4 days for a couple of summers, which she always begrudges, as it takes away from her time. But thankfully, my dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. Well, she recently told me that it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage, since I also use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate, but instead of doing that, I told her straight up that she could take it out of the tuition I owe you and we could negotiate the amount with Dad. When I said that, she was speechless. She texted me later to say that it was a manipulative thing to bring up the tuition and to even insinuate that I would tell Dad. And she just went on and on. Now, I've been thinking about it, and for starters, I'm hurt and offended that she can't just do a nice thing for me and she has to get something for it. And secondly, I guess I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. So truly, would I be the jerk for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for use of the cottage? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you would be the jerk, but seriously, I can't understand why you kept this from your dad. The second a parent is trying to be like, ooh, keep this a secret from my spouse, that's the second I'm gonna go to the other person and be like, hey, mom's saying some weird stuff, what's going on? Like, this is seriously so messed up. She literally stole money out of your pocket so that you could go to college, and that is honestly not okay. And I don't care if it's ancient history or whatever you want to call it. If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely scream it from the rooftops, especially if I let it go this far in my life. So no, you would not be the jerk if you did talk about this, because the way she's treating you, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. An entitled jerk steals my seat on an airplane, forcing me to sit somewhere that I absolutely did not pay for. So I decided to get some revenge by swapping seats with another woman who was so overweight that she literally squished this guy into a seat in a way that I'm sure was incredibly uncomfortable. Here's what happened. Last week, I took a flight from Athens all the way to London, where I'd been visiting relatives. It was a late flight, I was exhausted, and the plane was full. I was in a window seat, which I had chosen since I could rest my head against the walls and sleep, but when I got to my row, there was a guy in my seat. He had big headphones on and had his head turned away from me. I tried telling him that he is in my seat, but he just doesn't respond. Thinking that maybe he can't hear me because of the headphones, I gently tap him on the shoulder, but still I get no reaction. I try again, but I still get nothing, and at this point, he doesn't even turn towards me. And I also need to add that this guy is clearly not asleep. He's sitting upright and I can see his eyes are open. I consider calling over a flight attendant to ask him to move, but there isn't one nearby, and I'm not in the mood for it to be a whole thing. So I just take the middle seat and I quietly fume. A few minutes later, the young woman who is sitting in the aisle seat arrives and takes her seat. She is traveling with her friend, who is sitting in the window seat in the row behind us. They're talking to each other across their seats. Then the woman sitting in the aisle seat turns to me and asks if I can swap with her friend so they can sit together. And to that, I just say sure, no problem. Now at this point, it is important to point out that her friend is very fat. We're talking borderline obese. And no, I'm not fat shaming at all. I'm a heavy guy myself, but she is at least twice as wide as me. I probably would have swapped even if she had not been fat. But you know what? I saw a chance at getting revenge. As I get up to move, I see the guy sitting in my seat has turned around and realize what is about to happen. He does not look happy and gives me a look like he's saying, please don't move. But you know what? I ignore him and I swap the seats. I then spent the flight mostly with my eyes closed as I try and fail to get a nap in. But I do occasionally have a look at the row in front of me, and I'm very satisfied to see that the fat woman in front of me is taking up nearly half the window seat as well as her own seat, and that the guy in my seat is squashed up against the wall of the plane. So I really hope he spent the flight thinking about how if he had just taken his own seat, he would have been able to swap with a fat woman, and I would have been the one pinned against the wall. So maybe next time, think twice before you take someone else's seat, because something like this easily could happen again. Yeah, I can't stand people who steal seats on airplanes and then don't even have the common courtesy of talking to you about it. I also want to say that it's crazy to me that you didn't speak up and say something, because that guy was clearly in the wrong. There's no good excuse for that. He literally stole your seat and is trying to sit there. He deserves to be moved, because you know what? This easily could have not worked out in your favor. That lady could have been like, oh, I'm just gonna stay where I'm at, and then you're stuck in a seat that doesn't belong to you. I think it was really lucky that you wanted to switch, and it is instead just overall unfair that you had to do that. But thankfully, karma was on your side, and from the sounds of it, this guy absolutely deserved to get shut down. My boss took credit for my work and openly admits that that's exactly what he does. So I decided to get some malicious compliance by only doing my job and thus forcing my boss into a corner that he never got out of. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I was hired as a manager to create the contracts department of a tech startup. My boss was on an opposite coast as me, and we barely spoke. About a year in, the company hired consultants to overhaul departments, that is, except for contracts, because it was running so smoothly. And you know what? I was truly proud of this. In fact, the company sent me on a paid vacation to the Bahamas as a thank you. After I got back from vacation, I asked for a raise to director level, but my boss said that I just wasn't there. I asked for a list of what I need to do to be a director, and he sent me a list which, by the way, was everything I was already doing, and basically admitted that if I was a director, he would no longer be able to take credit for my work. Friends told me I needed to either leave or put up and shut up, but instead, I chose to destroy with kindness. boss. I wholeheartedly apologized to my manager for supposedly overstepping and said that I'm going to step back into the manager role. I then printed out the manager responsibilities and I posted them to my desk. Well, things went south quicker than I could have even imagined. Things went bad when we started missing sales targets. Products said that my boss agreed to a term in an agreement that would completely destroy their budget and product rollout. My boss didn't know commission agreements and let sales manipulate contracts, so we were paying commission on contracts with termination clauses. I only interjected once to stop a contract amendment from being approved because my boss was unknowingly letting a vice president artificially inflate sales numbers. The controller and CFO had to get involved, and eventually the CEO was called in. Stories started circulating about my boss holding stress balls and cursing in meetings. But you know what? I was more relaxed than ever, and during my newfound free time at work, I studied for and obtained professional certifications. I would also leave work early to get to the gym before it got busy. About a month after I unloaded my added responsibilities, my boss gave me a 7% bonus. It was unspoken, but I could tell he wanted me to take back on the director's responsibilities, all without the title, of course. But you know what? I continued to follow the manager description exactly as written. Fast forward 6 months later, and after taking 10 days of unlimited PTO, I was eventually included in the layoffs. I took 3 months off, and then I got another job at a 35% salary increase. While I am happy to be making more money, I truly love the company and the people that I worked with, and it's defeating to watch someone continually take credit for something that you worked incredibly hard for. Oh my gosh, that really pisses me off because my god, that is unbelievably toxic. Your boss literally admitted, hey, if you leave or if you get a promotion, then I can't take credit for your work, so let's not do that. And it's like, dude, are you serious? You're taking credit for my work? Stop it. Like, that for me in my own personal life is one of my biggest pet peeves about working in an office setting. People above you have every opportunity to take your work for granted and then try to pass it off as their own, even though they themselves haven't done anything that you're doing. And I'm willing to bet they couldn't even do your job. And the crappy boss in this story is a perfect example of that. The second the original poster did their job description is pretty much exactly when all of this fell apart. And it's all because of the boss, not because of the original poster. The boss could have easily helped them climb the ladder and get a higher position, but instead they wanted to keep them down, and that is so nasty. So I love this revenge because seriously, this guy absolutely deserves it. I installed a lockbox for my cheese, and now my roommate is saying I'm creating division in the house. But despite the fact that she's the one that made me do this, as she is constantly eating my food, I'm now worried that I might have been overreacting by doing this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I know this might sound insane, but please just hear me out. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I live with 2 roommates. One is a 29-year-old male, and the other one is a 28-year-old female. Now, one of them, namely the guy, is fine, whereas the other one is a fridge pirate with sticky fingers and zero shame. I don't even think she likes half the stuff that she steals, but just eats it because it's there. Well, the final straw was my cheese. My mother brings me cheese from my home country every time she visits, and no, I can't buy it here. I had it hidden behind the milk for safekeeping, but I opened the fridge yesterday and it was gone. She then said to me, oh, I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it is just cheese. But it's like, no, it's not just cheese. That cheese was the only joy I had left this week. So you know what? I snapped and I went into full chaos. I bought a small fridge lockbox, and yeah, it's a plastic safe that goes inside the fridge. There's a combo lock and everything on it, and I put my cheese, my fancy yogurt, my cold brew, and my chocolate in there. I then labeled it by saying unauthorized entry will be considered an act of war. Well, she saw it, and now she says I'm creating division in the house, and I'm being hostile and passive aggressive. But it's like, am I? Are you serious right now? Or is this what happens when you push a peaceful person to the brink over dairy? Because honestly, I'm about 3 bites away from putting AirTags into my hummus, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I did not expect this to blow up like this because I am laughing so hard. I haven't even got the time to read all the comments. There's just way too many. However, my 2 big takeaways are people asking what the cheese was and people saying that the note is aggressive. Now, the cheese is Asadero cheese. It's Mexican cheese, and yes, if you look it up, you can probably buy it online, but it is not the same. The one that I like and get is from this small town 2 hours away from my hometown that has maybe 10,000 people in it. It just has its own unique taste and it makes sense to me. But also, the note is not aggressive, it's a joke. Like, I'm not actually gonna go to war, although it would be fun. Instead, I'm saying something like, hey, I'm locking my food away from you, but we're still cool. However, please stop stealing. Anyways, I'm pretty sure we've moved on from all of this, as she is buying me lunch tomorrow, and I'm not getting rid of my lockbox, nor am I getting a mini fridge for my room. Because you know what? I really like the idea of her seeing tasty stuff in my lockbox while still not being able to eat it. Okay, I've gotta say I love love this story because yeah, this absolutely is hilarious. For starters, you were completely in the right for saying no, I don't want anybody near my stuff, as well as putting your valuable food in a lockbox and saying, hey, I don't want anybody taking this. And for anyone who might be like, oh man, that's such an aggressive thing to do, you know what's more aggressive? Stealing someone's food and being like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's a level of annoying that I am not willing to put up with, and I don't know anybody who should. Like seriously, that is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. So I personally think it's hilarious that you're like, oh man, we're going to war if you actually take my stuff. Because obviously she gets it, and it seems like you guys have made up in some kind of way, which in my opinion is really great to hear. But also, it sent the message quite clearly that, hey, you can't eat my stuff anymore. And sometimes with roommates, especially ones that eat all your food, that might be all it takes just to get them to stop. So yeah, you're definitely not the jerk for what you did, and I don't think you overreacted by locking up your food. Because from the sounds of it, it kinda needed to happen, and thankfully it kind of all worked out in the end. An entitled old jerk steals from me the last disabled parking spot, despite the fact that he himself was not disabled. So my manager and I decided to get some petty revenge by not only calling the police, but also getting his car towed in the process. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I have POTS. It's a disability that causes my heart rate to spike when I stand up. This causes symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, and chest pain. Some people pass out from POTS, but thankfully I don't. When it's very hot or very cold, my symptoms get worse. I live in Florida where it's hot all the time, and because of this, my cardiologist filled out a form allowing me to get a disabled parking permit, and the DMV gave me a license plate with a disabled symbol, which shows that I'm allowed to park in disabled spots. So I work at a science museum, and last week, as I was pulling into the parking lot, I was cut off by a Cybertruck. This Cybertruck sped into the last disabled parking spot, and this was the last parking spot in our lot, making me have to park across the street. And mind you, it was about 90 degrees that day. So I walked across the street, passing the Cybertruck as I made my way to the entrance of the museum. And to my shock, I saw that the Cybertruck didn't have a disabled wheelchair icon on the license plate, nor the placard in the window. So not only was this guy an idiot rude driver, but they had also taken the last disabled parking spot when I, an actual disabled person, really needed it. Now at this point, I was livid, and I was feeling like I was going to puke from my heart rate spiking from the walk to the museum. I went inside and I told my manager, who was incredibly appalled, and tried to find the person before calling the cops, as in the state of Florida, it's a towable offense that also results in a fine of $250, and this is displayed on every disabled parking sign in the state. Well, he wasn't in the museum, and we checked the cameras, and it turns out he went to a restaurant across the street. So he was using our parking lot to avoid paying for parking. So my manager then called the police and a towing company. 2 police cars showed up, and the cops said that they'd give him a ticket, and that since he's nowhere to be found, they would call a tow truck at his expense and impound the vehicle until he pays. And for Florida cops, they were actually shockingly nice and helpful. The tow truck arrived and tried to tow the Cybertruck, but as they attempted to pull out, the Cybertruck's back panel flew off. They had to reattach the Cybertruck to the tow, and eventually they were able to drive off with it. Well, a few minutes later, a man in his 50s appeared yelling about how his Cybertruck was gone. The police then explained that they had to have him towed since he was parking in a disabled parking spot. The man continued to carry on for like 10 minutes before the cops said they would arrest him, and he finally shut up. They then wrote him a ticket and the cops finally left. Well, the man stayed, he yelled at my manager without end until a Tesla finally showed up to pick him up. And honestly, that's just a little bit of karma for the trouble he caused me by stealing the last handicap parking spot that I desperately needed. Oh man, I literally cannot imagine being that much of a piece of garbage where you would willingly take a handicap parking spot when there are probably plenty of other spots you could have parked at. And I know exactly the kind of person you're talking about. They drive like morons, they treat everybody like crap, and then when things don't go their way, it's everybody else's fault. But it's like, dude, you don't need that spot. That's meant for people who actually have disabilities. And trust me, the original poster absolutely fits the bill. What they're dealing with is no joke, especially in the hot, humid sun like Florida. The possibility of them being dizzy or getting nauseous or even passing out, like that is serious down there. You can't even mess with that. So it makes sense as to why they would need that kind of spot. But regardless, this is incredibly satisfying because that guy was a complete jerk. And based on the way he was reacting to all of this, in my opinion, I think he absolutely deserved to get towed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled ex-boyfriend said that I had no business becoming a lawyer, saying that I would never even be paralegal and that I would be better off being a court clerk. But today I proved him wrong by showing him that not only will will I be a lawyer first, but also I'm going to a much better school than he could ever dream of getting into. Here's what happened. Okay, so my 3-year odyssey of spite finally came together yesterday. When I was a fresh college graduate in 2022, I dated an attorney for 3 months. He was a talented lawyer, spoke lucidly about what he did for work, and I trusted his opinions about the legal profession. So after I finished a postgraduate internship, I told him my real postgraduate aspiration was to get a job at a law firm as a paralegal and work as one until I was ready to apply for law school. When I said this, he literally scoffed at me and told me I would be better off as a court clerk. I don't mean to harp on court clerks at all. It is a difficult job, yes, but it is more administrative in nature. And from the way he said it, it was exceedingly clear he meant the comment to be derogatory. He didn't elaborate on why he said this, but it was heavily implied. Well, I was taken aback and really hurt. But at 21 years old, I hadn't learned how to have a spine yet, so I just kind of brushed it off. A few weeks later, I was working my first paralegal job, and we broke up shortly afterwards for reasons I'm sure you can guess. Anyways, he was right that I'm not going to be a paralegal. I took my LSAT last fall, I scored in the 98th percentile, sent out my applications, committed to UC Berkeley Law yesterday, which by the way is ranked in about 90 spots above his law school, but you know, who's counting? And at the end of the day, I'm going to become a lawyer. He is currently blocked on LinkedIn after I was the recipient of some profile creeping from him, but today I'm going to unblock him so that he can see exactly what's going on. And you know what? It's definitely reminiscent of the scene from Legally Blonde where she gets this prestigious internship. And honestly, with all things considered, my revenge on this guy is absolutely oh so sweet. Oh man, this is so funny because I know exactly what she's talking about, and this really is like straight out of Legally Blonde, both the musical and the movie. So good for you for getting this revenge because that guy sounds like a piece of garbage, and I love the fact that you threw this right back in his face in such a hilarious fashion. My husband's idiotic friend threw away most of our utensils and cookware after she stayed there as a favor to rent our apartment out while we went to my home country to visit my mom. And now I'm demanding that she pay me back for all the stuff she threw away, despite the fact that my husband is begging me to let it go. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my husband has a group of friends who have been together since school. I moved to his country for work and study, and I come from a different culture. We welcomed our lovely baby girl, and we are lucky to be in a country where parents can take a good amount of time off. We decided to spend 2 months in my country so my mom can bond with the baby, since she couldn't be there when my first was born due to COVID. Coincidentally, a couple we know was returning from a trip around the world and needed to rent an apartment. So it was a perfect match. They cover our rent, and we can be relaxed since they can look after our apartment and car. Well, once we returned, I noticed our kitchen was almost empty. I mean stuff like baking utensils, forks, knives, pans, cooking ingredients, casseroles, even utensils my mom brought from my home country for special meals, they were all just gone. And you know what? I was furious. I still cannot believe how someone can do such a thing. She replaced one of the 2 frying pans and that was it. We still have a few pans, but specialty items to cook and bake different things are just completely gone. Now my husband's allegedly talked to the friend, and we'll call this friend Sarah for the sake of the story, and Sarah acted like she did a favor. Once she realized we were not happy, she argued that only those she could not make clean enough were thrown away. And I say allegedly because my husband tends to minimize and diminish the issue just so he doesn't cause any waves. Well, I demanded that she replaces every single item. My husband is begging me to let it go and to not lose a long friendship, but I feel like I'm in crazy town. I mean, who does that? Especially without talking to the owners of the house. If you don't know what something is, why throw it away? I simply cannot wrap my head around it. So seriously, am I the jerk and is she just doing us a favor, or am I being gaslit to high heaven? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I would be super pissed off if someone did that to me. Seriously, this is so uncalled for. You can't just throw someone's stuff away all because you're like, well, I can't get this clean enough, so I'm gonna throw it out. It's like, first of all, why did you dirty up pretty much all of her dishes? And secondly, your first instinct is to throw it away? Like, what are you doing? That is not your stuff. You literally don't own that. If anything, that means you just clean it up as best as you can and say, hey, I did the best I could, and then you leave it there. You don't throw it away as if you own it. And the fact that your husband is trying to be like, oh, don't ruin this friendship, just let it go. It's not that big of a deal. Dude, this is a big deal. This lady literally threw away some of your property. It doesn't matter what it is. This is so uncalled for. So no, you're not the jerk because this lady absolutely is required to pay you back. And the fact that your husband is fighting you on this, in my opinion, is absolutely uncalled for. Would I be the jerk for canceling a hotel booking that I made with people that I no longer speak to anymore, as they have ostracized me from their group in a terrible way? Because right now I'm not sure what to do and it's honestly so confusing. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I made a hotel booking for myself, my sister, and 3 other girls back in October for a concert in June. However, since December, I had an argument with one of the girls that led to her ignoring me and no longer speaking to me, with the other 2 seemingly taking her side and the 3 of them ostracizing me from the group. This led to me moving out of the flat we shared, and since then, none of them have attempted to contact me and seem to just get angry with me over every little thing that I do. I tried multiple times to apologize and amend things with them, which only resulted in them either ignoring me or dismissing the issue as nothing and pretending nothing was wrong. Now, that was a very shortened summary of what happened, and I've come to the conclusion that I do not want to make amends with these people and do not want to speak to them anytime soon for the way that they've treated me. Well, here's the big issue. I do not want to stay at the same hotel as them for this concert in June. The advice I've received from almost everyone in my life is to cancel the booking and rebook another hotel for me and my sister, and they think this is an appropriate response to the way they've treated me these past 6 months. I don't like this option because I feel obligated to tell them that I'm canceling the booking, which undoubtedly will start an argument that I'm not mentally prepared to handle. Also, it's a refundable pay-on-the-day booking that can be canceled up to a week before the stay. I booked 2 rooms, one for my sister and I and the other for them. My initial plan was to cancel one of the rooms and transfer the booking of the other room to them. However, I've been told that my card will still be attached to the booking and that it might not even be possible to do this without talking to any of them about it. I'm starting now to not want to cancel the booking altogether and book something else for just my sister and I, as I know for a fact that they will not sort anything out themselves or talk to me about this until the very last minute. A lot of people have been telling me that I need to grow a backbone and let them deal with the consequences of refusing to communicate with me for over half a year now. So would I be the jerk for doing this? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be straight up with you and say that no, you would not be the jerk for this. If you did cancel that booking, you would be well within your right to do so, because these people screwed you over. They literally ostracized you from the group, treated you like garbage, and showed their true colors. So for them to even begin to expect to have any kind of hotel room later on this year, in my opinion, would be insane. They should not get to reap the rewards of you setting this up for them if they're gonna treat you like garbage. I'm sorry, that's just not gonna happen. So yes, it's gonna suck, and yes, they're gonna be upset, but at the end of the day, you owe these people nothing. They've proven that they don't care about you and that they are not real friends. And that, in my opinion, is more than enough of a reason for you to pull the plug on this booking and honestly never look back. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend to stop inviting people over to my place? Because after I found out she scheduled a surprise birthday party for my mother at my house, I told her that she's going way too fast and that she needs to stop this right now. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I met my girlfriend back in February. She is very nice and sweet, but she likes to plan stuff without asking me. When she met my work friends at a pub, she invited all of them over the weekend after at my place. She basically told them that they should come over to our place even though we don't live together, saying that next weekend we'll have dinner and drinks and watch the game. I then asked her later why she did that, and she said she was being nice and that she loves cooking. Now the thing is, I like going out for drinks with them sometimes, but I wasn't really close to some of them at all. Anyways, I dropped the subject and I helped her with hosting, preparing, and paid for some of the extra groceries and all the stuff we might need. She went above and beyond and everyone absolutely loved her. But now I'm getting a call from my brother asking about my mom's birthday party at our place next Saturday. And honestly, I was genuinely surprised. Apparently, she invited everyone for a surprise birthday party for my mom. And mind you, she's only met my family maybe 4 times in total. My dad is kind of annoyed because he wanted to take her alone to her favorite restaurant and had the whole evening planned but decided to postpone it so that my girlfriend doesn't get hurt. I then told my girlfriend that she is moving way too fast. We don't even live together yet. And also, please stop inviting people to my place without talking to me first. Well, after I said that, she's now incredibly upset with me. She said I'm being ungrateful and that I'm the jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I feel like I'm losing my mind. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your girlfriend is out of her mind if she thinks she can invite people over to your place without talking to you first, let alone inviting people that you barely know. And I totally get it. Drinking friends and normal friends are completely different. So for her to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a big party, come over next weekend, like that's really intrusive, and that is honestly so uncalled for. Because of course she didn't invite them to her place. Instead, she said, oh yeah, we're gonna go to my boyfriend's place, while conveniently saying, oh, it's our place. But for me, the icing on the cake of her crossing the line was her scheduling a surprise birthday party for your mother. Seriously, what's going on here? This is such weird treatment, it's not even funny. She's only met these people 4 times, and she's already been like, okay guys, let's have a party for her. Not to mention, the original poster has only been dating them for like what, 2 or 3 months? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so fast, it's not even funny. So yeah, she is absolutely being a jerk, and the fact that she's trying to frame this as if you're being ungrateful, in my opinion, is an awful manipulation tactic, because she is literally just trying to get her way by making you feel guilty in the process. Am I the jerk for saying no to my girlfriend's friend, who literally wanted to use our kitchen for well over a week, all because she didn't want to use the one her dorm provided her? Because right now I'm very frustrated and my girlfriend just doesn't see where I'm coming from. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend and I live together in our apartment. Recently, one of her friends, who I'm not really close with, asked if she could come over and just use our kitchen. She lives in a dorm but says the kitchen there is too dirty to cook in. Now that already felt strange to me because I barely know her, and it's not like it's an emergency. But what made it even weirder is that my girlfriend told me that we should feel honored that her friend asked us instead of asking someone else. And honestly, that rubbed me the wrong way. It felt kind of entitled, like we're supposed to say yes out of flattery. Also, this isn't a situation where the friend is in trouble or starving. She has a meal plan and can eat at the dining halls. It's not like she doesn't have options. She just suddenly wanted to cook something and decided her dorm kitchen was too gross. My guess is she remembered our place being clean because we hosted her and a few others a few times for dinner. But here's the thing, this wasn't a social request at all. It wasn't something like, hey, want to cook together sometime? Or even asking, could we hang out and cook together? It was literally just, can I use your kitchen to cook my own food? That's it. No invitation to connect or spend time together, just a one-way request to use our space. Now, another important detail, I'm the one who uses the kitchen 99% of the time. I do almost all the cooking and the dishes, so it feels like my personal space in the house. It's not just a shared utility room to me. It's where I do something I actually enjoy and take care of the both of us. So letting someone else use it, especially someone I don't really know that well, isn't something I'm automatically cool with. For what it's worth, I'm not against helping out her friends. Over the summer, one of her friends who I really like and would love to be closer to stayed with us for a week because she didn't have a place to stay temporarily. We both agreed to it, and of course she had full use of the kitchen and everything else. It felt mutual and respectful. But this current situation doesn't feel the same. It was just a request out of nowhere, with no real context or urgency. And you know what? It just completely caught me off guard. Also, I've had a negative experience before with one of her friends who turned out not to be supportive of our relationship. So I know I might be a little guarded now. When I reacted by saying, what? That's weird. My girlfriend told me I was overreacting and being rude about her friend. So it really makes me question if this kind of request is normal or if I'm just being way too sensitive. I mean, if it were like a one-time request, I honestly think I'd be okay with it. But she wanted to use our kitchen for a whole week, including sharing our refrigerator space. And we live in a pretty small one-bedroom, one-bath apartment, so that's what made it feel like a bigger ask than it initially sounded. She mentioned wanting to cook things like chicken breast and avocado toast, and it sounds like she would want to make it every day. So am I the jerk in this situation, or am I completely out of line? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I do not think you're the jerk at all. This really is a weird request. Like seriously, this is so like intrusive, it's not even funny. And the fact that your girlfriend doesn't see a problem with that is also really annoying. That'd be like someone coming into my house and being like, hey, I need your computer for a week. And it's like, dude, I do everything on my computer. I work, I game, I do everything, like literally everything. So if my partner then chimed in and said, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you're overreacting, I would be pissed off. I'd be like, are you kidding me right now? You're never on this thing. You never take care of it. You're not the one cleaning it out. Like seriously, this is not okay. And for me, I think it totally applies in this situation too. You're the only one using that kitchen. You're the only one cooking or doing anything major that involves food. So for this person you don't even know that well to step in and be like, I'm using your kitchen, it's obvious that they're just doing it for like selfish reasons, and the fact that they don't want to clean up the kitchen they do have and just want to freeload off of what you already have. And that is really annoying, and I would not want to deal with that. So no, you're not the jerk. I think your girlfriend's completely wrong, and this friend is absolutely out of line for demanding such a weird request. I feel incredibly jaded over the way I was treated at my previous job, and now I'm unemployed and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've had this job since I was about 16 years old. I've gone through several jobs, and most of them I walked away from the toxic environment. I'm 20 years old, and recently I moved to a different state to be with my partner, and I've gone about 7 months since my last paycheck and job. I never realized how lucky I was in my old town when my resumes and applications would go through the first try. I've had one job since moving, and I lost it to a new job requirements that I wasn't made aware of. I went 2 days sick, and yes, I found other people to cover me, and was told an hour after informing the current manager that I found someone to cover me that if I don't have a doctor's note the next time I went into work, then I shouldn't come back at all. And I was told this after I had covered for several other people, gave ample multiple warning if I was going to show up late, and went out of my way to learn new things out of my position just to help when needed. I know I wasn't part of the company for that long, maybe 5.5 months, but still it really hurt. I knew several employees who were doing their jobs wrong or not at all, but I can't complain about them or report them as my partner and their brother work at the place now. I don't want to drag this location down with me as my partner still needs an income as other jobs refuse to give any feedback on their resumes and applications. I apologize to anyone who read through this. I'm just trying to scream into the void to vent because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I know exactly where you're coming from. I've been in work situations like that before where the rules change all of a sudden and you end up being the last person to find out, but not because of a lack of trying. And it's so funny to me, the very people who probably were like, oh man, thank goodness the original poster stepped in and did all that extra work, are the same people who are going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, but you're doing it wrong. It's like, dude, why not just tell me? Why not just tell me because clearly I didn't know because I never get sick, instead of warning me and being like, oh, the next time don't even come back at all. If that's not proof enough these people never cared about you and they only see you as a number or some kind of commodity so that they don't have to step in and do the work, then honestly nothing will. And let's think about this for a second. Do you really want to work for people who act like that? That seriously sounds like a nightmare that would really not last long for probably anybody. And I don't know about anybody else listening, but for me, I like to feel valued and appreciated at any job that I'm working at. And the second they start talking about, well, if you don't do it right, don't even bother coming back at all, that to me is like a giant red flag being thrown up into the sky where I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this one. These people suck and they don't actually like me. And then that's my cue to start looking for another job because you know what? I don't need that for a second. So truly, I hope things work out for you and I'm so sorry that you're going through a rough time because you took a risk to move out with your partner and live with them and try and find some kind of life together. But hopefully everything works out for you because you honestly deserve the very best. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.